So, GunGamers Podcast, episode 22, with my co-hosts, Kaylee, Eric, and Matt, and we've got a special guest tonight. It is Alex from Omega Productions, co-founder and co-owner, and host of probably my favorite fucking airsoft events. How's it going, Alex?
It is going very well. I have my White Claw because there are no laws when you're drinking claws or heating haws. And I have another one. I have a backup, so maybe I'll have to get a third. And I was drinking before this too.
I'm going to be super unprofessional and quickly disappear because my battery is done charging and it's beeping and it's fucking annoying.
Matt, what are you drinking tonight?
Today I went for the light on sale beer, Land Shark Lager. Nothing happens without a land shark.
Yeah. Kaylee, how about yourself?
You write that yourself? Oh, I'm just drinking a Diet Coke, but it's in a sweet MRE Mountain koozie.
Ooh, I got one of those.
Ooh, everyone loves MRE Mountain.
Eric,
so
are you drinking anything special tonight?
I had Diet Sunkissed and it's gone. So, yeah, that's what I'm drinking. Not drinking.
I feel like I feel bad because you and I are going to be stuck in a car tomorrow for 5 hours, and I might be really hungover based off the fact that I've just been drinking fucking Nika coffee grain whiskey, which really good, by the way.
Yeah, I figured you'd like it.
So good. So we've got our guest here, Alex, who is the co-founder, co-owner of Omega Productions, and Eric and Matt and I all know about Omega Production. Kaylee herself, not so much. You've never been to an event.
No, I mean, I'm stuck over here on the West Coast with just Lion Claws and Milsom West. That's pretty much it. So, well, DFE, but yeah.
I'm just going to quickly cut off any comments that will come to this effect. If anyone gets mad about us being uber, mega, super biased and shilling for Omega, deal with it. That's fine. We love it.
We like this. We paid for it. Allow us to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, honest to God, I mean, we're a solid a minute and a half into the fucking podcast, but I will say that I still think the Desolation 1 is the most fun I've ever had in an airsoft event. Eric, I feel the same way. Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where you realize you had fun after the event. I think during the event, everyone was like, oh man, like I can't wait for this to be over. Like this is just miserable. Because I mean, if you weren't at Desolation 1, which most people weren't because they're smart, it was about 35 degrees for the entire weekend. So the events take place from Friday, mid-afternoon, night into Sunday afternoon. It's like 40 hours of continuous play. The entire time, the temperature never got above 35 degrees. It was super windy and raining / snowing, sleeting for about 80% of the time. Oh, yeah. So it was really more like we say it's kind of like a mix between airsoft LARP and like survival / bushcraft. That event leaned hard into the survival aspect of our event. Like people were literally just like trying to stay warm most of the time. That was what their primary concern was.
I burned an extra pair of socks because we couldn't because we had nothing dry to get the fire started, and none of us thought to bring like legit fire starting kits. We're like, oh well, we used our lighters and whatnot. Never mind that there was no dry tinder anywhere because the whole place is soaked.
We had it a little bit easier the second day because I had like an extra compartment on my tent where I could just like save firewood to dry out, but it still was a fucking nightmare. But Alex, for those of our viewers who have no idea what the fuck Omega Productions is, do you want to explain what Omega is?
Yeah, so I think a very succinct explanation of what we do is that we host continuous 40-hour post-apocalyptic survival experiences, right? So like I said before, the events start Friday afternoon, they end Sunday afternoon. It's 40 hours straight. There are no breaks. I mean, we let people leave the field if they have to use a physical restroom. That's really the only exception that we make for people leaving the gameplay area. Do everything in game, right? So you're eating in game, you're sleeping in game, you're doing all that type of stuff in the actual event space. And obviously the theme is post-apocalyptic. So the backstory of our event is that, for about 30 years, starting in the mid 2020s, There was civil war in countries, global war, people using, dirty bombs, nukes on one another. And while humanity was kind of on the precipice of, total annihilation, a giant asteroid slammed into the Earth, killed, about half of the remaining population of the Earth, and also released this toxic yellow dust, which asphyxiates people when they breathe it in. So, you go from the situation where you have, billions of people living on the Earth to only a few million, which is why, we have that event, a pretty low event cap. If you're looking at national events, most people are in a few hundred. We typically cap events at like 100, 125.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this is sort of like a Fallout type universe, or like a Wasteland for like RTS games in the early 90s type universe that the games take place in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely borrow heavily from media. I mean, if you're looking at like video games, The Last of Us, that game just came out, and it's a great, like the very low ammo that we have with the games, that comes from part of it comes from The Last of Us. Fallout, there's a lot of inspiration drawn there. Books and movies like The Road, if you've read that or seen the movie, there's a lot of heavy inspiration from that. Because a lot of these other games and things like that, like Last of Us, there's zombies. We don't have zombies in our game. It's literally just humans kind of trying to fight to survive.
Because humans are the real monsters.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's more of like, kind of drawing from The Road, where you're just always, you're always fighting other people.
But instead of it being like an actual, like an event where you have, two sides duking it out, it's more of like a LARP heavy event versus, a Milsim West type thing.
Yeah, it's super LARP heavy. So in our rule set, our expanded rule set, we at the very beginning we say, these are not force on force Milsim events. There are no teams. There are loose communities where people can join. They can leave if they don't like what a community is about. But a lot of the interactions can be solved without, becoming violent, without shooting one another, right? Like, so everyone brings an airsoft replica. But we say that most situations you can get out of with talking or trading or doing something, not necessarily just shooting someone because they're not in the same community or not on the same team as you.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about it, is the fact that people really are incentivized to do those non-violent interactions as well, because you have so little ammo.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that if you come out on the losing end of one of those violent interactions, anything that was given to you that's based off the in-game economy, they can just loot off of you.
Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting mechanic that we have is the looting mechanic, where essentially anything that you have on your person that you earn in-game can be taken from you. So that includes things like BBs, our currency, which we use bullet casings. Any type of prop or item that has been earned in-game can also be taken from you. So there's definitely, that motivation not to go around pissing everyone off that you see, because if you do, people are going to want to shoot you and going to want to take your stuff. So you definitely have to be careful with how you navigate situations, right? And it's a 40-hour long event. It happens over 3 days, 2 nights. So if you piss someone off on Friday afternoon, they're going to remember you for the duration of the event, which is not necessarily good.
Yeah. Well, and the fun thing too is, unlike some events, that goes for ammo and magazines too. So like, you can lose a gunfight and think, oh, well, I don't have any loose ammo on me, but you're going to have to dump out your mag.
Yeah.
So you can literally leave any interaction being looted with nothing and have to start all over. And if you've pissed off too many people...
Yeah, you're kind of
This is
boned.
terrible. How many BBs do you start with?
0.
None.
Oh.
This many.
And
you have to trade and do stuff to get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are words that describe what happens.
So
there I was.
Trading sexual favors,
From everything I've seen, one of the really, really funny parts of or not funny, but one of the just distinct gameplay elements of Omega is that, like, if you run out of ammo, you either have to trade for it or go find these tiny little packets of BBs that might have like 15 or 20 BBs that you'll just, load into your mag. And you're not using an Odin, you're not using a mechanical speed loader.
Yeah.
You're hand feeding, or you're using one of those like plunger style Tokyo Marui.
A carefully crafted wooden stick.
Yeah, yes.
Hey, man, I got through a whole Milsim West hand feeding, so it can be
You'll be right
done.
at home. You'll be right at home.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not just like it's not an Easter egg hunt for 5-year-olds. There's not just like Alex with like a fluorescent yellow arrow like BB's over here. You can't just like lift up a rock and be like, oh look. It's not a video game. It's like you really have to seek this out. I don't mean climb a 30-foot tree and like look in a bee's nest.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you don't interact, that's one thing that I really liked about it was it forces the interaction, but in the game, it's like, hey, if I need BBs, I need to go talk to Eric who played the Trader Desolation 2, or Alex who played insert 9 different characters at whatever point throughout all of the events. Like, oh yes, now. No, I'm not Alex. I'm someone different. What would you like?
Yeah, we go through quite a few costume changes throughout the event.
Yeah.
They're all as official as the finger mustache.
Also, when you find those little packets of BBs, you have no idea what weight they are. It's just color-coded.
That is true.
So
we do any weight between like basically 0.2 and 0.4. Anything that I have sitting around that I just don't like. Like for the longest time, I had a
trash BBs.
Yeah, I had a bottle of these Vulcans. They were gray Vulcan 0.40 BBs that I used once, and I was like, I can't see these. They were jamming. I was like, these just aren't like great BBs. I don't want to use these. So they were sitting around for probably years, just in my.
They are great. I still have.
And then we started Omega, and I was like, oh, these are perfect to use. And I still think we have a couple of those bags floating around because even though they're heavy, people see them and they're like, no,
My favorite bag is the one that's literally just like mixed ammo weights.
Yeah.
Like no two BBs in that bag are the same weight.
Oh yeah, no, it's
a couple buddies give us just bags of mixed weight ammo, just like I use this to test BBs. Like I don't need to use it. Like here you go. I'm like perfect. And just start shoving those into bags.
It's like shitty fucking like surplus burden primed corrosive Russian 7.62 54R.
That's how I always describe it in game. I'm like, oh, this is salvaged.
Yeah, and that's another game mechanic, right? Is because it's hard to say it's an apocalyptic simulation because we've never gone through an apocalypse. So it's hard to say like what would happen and what wouldn't happen. But I think a reasonable person would say like, yeah, ammo is going to be very, very hard to come by when the world ends. You're not just going to be, it's not going to be like the
world
Division,
isn't even ended. It's hard to come by now.
Yeah, like it's not like the Division where you can just go into a car and find 200 rounds of like 7.62. Like that's not how it works, right? So the ammo that you do find is probably not going to be that reliable. Which the way we translate that is to have different weight BBs. So people's hop ups may be adjusted for 3.2, but they're shooting 2.5, so their BBs are, they're over hopping, they're going up, or maybe they have 4s and now they're under hopping, so they have to kind of make that on the adjustment.
Yeah.
On the fly.
Or it's 35 degrees out and the hop up is irrelevant because your bucking is frozen.
It's just frozen. It's part of your barrel. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And we've had people message us like, oh, like the bear, like, so can I just get like 0.36 gram BBs because that's what my gun shoots? And we're like, no, that's not how the event works. And they're like, yeah, but my gun only shoots 0.36. I'm like, this event probably isn't for you then.
Yeah.
Here's or the for thing. That gun, at least. Like, get another gun.
The great thing about Omega is that you can have the most tricked out fucking Polar Star that you with an R hop and you're shooting 300 feet with 0.4s. Or you can also use a smoke wagon and do just as well because you actually have ammo for your gun versus the dude with a Polar Star who had 20 rounds and blew all of them in one fight. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want a picky gun. You want a gun that will basically shoot anything you put in it. So
exactly.
You need the airsoft AK-47.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Will always work.
I've been looking at that
Sima
APS.
or a hater. Those are the two things.
I've been looking at the APS Cam 870. Like the
the
shell loading
shotgun.
In the shell just throw anything into it. You can throw like loose gravel into it. And it'll still be fine.
I have one. You don't.
I don't.
I love it. It's super fun. I have one. It's for sale if you want it.
There you go. Ian,
it is.
Bye.
It's not. It's a little dicey. It's a little dicey.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, but you definitely want. Yeah, you definitely want a gun though that can take a lot of different ammo types. Like if you have a Springer that's been collecting dust, this is the game. Like you can compete with that.
I was like, I think Optimus Prime in the YouTube chat. He's like, "What kind of gun platform are we talking?" I was like, honestly, the more obscure, the better. Like, it just makes it more fun for you.
Yeah.
Ian and Eric, I say it as one. They ran a smoke wagon together.
Shared the
at Desolation 1.
Romantic.
Yeah, what were we? Revenant. At Revenant, I ran the what was it? The Wild Aces, right?
Yeah,
the speedier version of the smoke wagon.
Barrel.
Right. I think I brought my Cam 870 Ian to another one. I don't Desolation 2. I think I had it. Maybe Perdition. I'm not sure.
I think you had it with you at Perdition.
Yes, I was like, it was fun. I like shot it in the air. I was like, look, it works. Bang. Okay, put it away before people think that it actually works. Like all these fun things. Like as long as your gun shoots. When I went to Desolation 1, my Elite Force 1911, it took a licking and kept on ticking. Right? It's CO2. It'll probably shoot anything you put in it as long as it's spherical. Like that was more than enough to shoot somebody. Like you do not need like that's the thing. Yeah, right. Airsoft is like, bro, I've got this Polar Star with $9,000 in it, or this DSG super high speed. You could go to the local sporting goods store and buy an LPEG, and you would be doing just as good as the guy who has an airsoft gun that costs more than a used car. Like, that's the great thing about this is we'll call it the equalizer event. You don't need to be very fancy. A slingshot would suffice.
Charisma is your real best weapon. Let's be
honest. No one's done a slingshot yet. That would be pretty funny if someone brought a slingshot.
Has anyone done the airsoft bow? What about that?
Artemis.
She's in the chat.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Did someone say airsoft bow?
She's rocked the airsoft bow at 2 events now. Yeah, she does the whole bow.
That's funny.
She had it at when I would go to, was it Revelations? Is that the one at Ballahack, Alex?
Yeah, Ballahack.
Yeah, Revelations.
Yeah, I've seen her at the doohickey down in Virginia, where she's just like scow, just crushing people. Those sound effects are patented.
I like that.
So
I want to hear that again.
Not
the great equalizer really is the lack of ammo and just the terrible ammo that everybody's running. I'm waiting for you to start dropping like Crossman .12 like BBs with like visible bubbles in them in there.
Ammo.
I thought about it. It's one of those. I don't want to be held responsible for anyone's gun break. Like you gave me .12s and I was stupid and just decided not to use them. It's almost like we gave you .12s to make the decision not to use them and you did it anyway, which is like I don't know. I mean, the lowest we've gone so far is .2s. We've done we have a large stockpile of 2s, 2 5s, 2 8s, and 3 2s, and then we throw in like 3 6s, 4s, and random other weights whenever we get them.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, to be honest, you just need to get like an N7 Milsim, which will just eat anything that you throw at it.
Oh yeah,
unless you're Dan's brother.
Shameless plug for Redline. Frank and I both exclusively use Redline. Frank's actually a sponsored player by Redline. He's the one who turned me on to Redline, and he's turned a bunch of other people on to Redlines. I mean, they released the first, mechanical pneumatic engine. I mean, at this point, it's like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they just work at any conditions. I mean, like Buffalo, Rochester. I mean, the winters get down. I mean, it's like 10 degrees, 20 degrees. Those things will just keep going.
I've had 2 N7 so far. The second one is the one that you traded to Eric, and then I ended up trading to him for like an MP5. But yeah, dude, you can throw fucking anything into those. I've used them in like 10-degree weather. I've used them in like 95-degree weather, and they work fine. You can throw absolutely any ammo into them, and like they'll chop BBs, but they'll eat it and keep chugging. Like if you're throwing garbage in there, they'll keep chugging.
I think they're. I mean, not the best kept secret. I think Redline would probably say like we don't want to be a secret, but yeah. Anytime I try to turn people onto Redline if they're looking into the HPA route. Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like how many events that you go to now actually allow full auto for riflemen? It's extremely rare, right? Yeah. So, like, I mean, if you're shooting semi-auto anyway all the time, like I do, like it's I'd rather have the reliability. I mean, Polar Stars are great. I've had Polar Stars, but the battery can just kind of be like.
That's what's exciting about the Kythera, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see people's reviews on the Kythera because it just came out. And they had a
just came out. Have people gotten?
Yeah, people have gotten them like pre-orders.
People have gotten them. I haven't.
Oh yeah.
I haven't gotten my pre-order yet. I'm still waiting.
I've seen people already have installed and everything.
Oh yeah. So I run a Redline N7 in one of my current builds, along with the Polar Star CGS stock, and it's just it chugs. It's a monster. I fucking love it. By the way, CGS stock 33 gram CO2 cartridges, just perfect.
Those are nice. Yeah, Polar Star's really they're doing a lot of stuff with like the stocks and the engines. They're pretty awesome.
Oh, for sure.
But they don't sponsor Omega Productions, therefore they are worse.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't send us
best.
engines and regulators every event. So
that's one of the things that you should really keep in mind when you go to a Omega Productions event. That there's a raffle at the end of the event where you might just come out of the event on like in the green because you won Redline N7 or you won some sort of product
And that's an interesting thing with the raffles though. There's some experimental stuff you guys have done with the raffles. Is that something you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, we can talk. We've definitely evolved the raffle. So when the first raffle that we did was a standard raffle. Like you give out tickets at the end of the event. You draw tickets from a hat. All right, you read a number. Like, all right, who has the ticket? Give that person the prize, whatever. And I think what we've tried to do is get away from that format. Anytime we recognize something as like a heavy like milsim tradition, we try to do something different because we don't want to be associated with, like a milsim type of event. So what we've done with the raffles recently is we've tried to make it more of things that you find in game, right? So one of our more recent events, what we did, rather than having tickets that we give to everyone at the end of the event, we have an item that if you are in possession of it at the end of the event, you will be eligible to earn a raffle prize, but you don't know what that prize is going to be until the end of the event, right? So we have everyone gather around. We do kind of like our, again, this is more of a milsim term, but AAR, we want to see how everyone enjoyed the event, any constructive criticisms that they had. And then we do the raffle where we'll say, all right, who has, I'm just going to throw out an example, like who has the rabbit's foot, who has that right now? And someone will raise their hand like, all right, you won, the Redline N7. Who has, the yellow bullet, the bullet casing that's painted purple? All right, you won, 2 free tickets to any event that you want, in the next calendar year. So we're trying to make it so, it's not necessarily just like everyone gets a ticket, called numbers, we're going to raffle. Like these are actually things that you can earn in game. And when you find those things that could potentially lead to a raffle prize, they can be looted. Right. So as we start doing, as we try to continue improving our events, one of the things that Frank and I want to do is have more stuff like that, right? Like things that you can find in the game, keep as trinkets after the event, but be able to kind of present them at the end to earn different prizes, right? Whether it be something like a Redline N7, a Redline SFR, something from Engage Tactical, free event tickets, T-shirts, patches, whatever. That's all. That's something that we're still playing around with and definitely want to continue to evolve.
That kind of that acts as a gameplay element in of itself because like it reminds me of Stalker almost, where like you'll find like the anomalies and it's just like, oh hey, this gives me this bonus, except it's a Redline N7 at the end of the event, except you don't know what you're gonna get.
Exactly. So we have,
and that's what I love about it is it really is a treasure hunt at that point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so we're working on some stuff now, and I don't want to reveal like the exact details of it, but we're going to do a lot more of that kind of stuff and have it be something that, you can essentially wear on your person, right? So if you find something, you're going to require that you wear it. That way other people can see that you have it, and then they'll probably try to conspire against you to get it so that they can have it at the end of the event and win, some type of, prize, whether it be like a T-shirt.
Better make some friends if you want to keep that safe.
Exactly.
That's so rad.
Well, and so for Desolation 3, which is the next event you guys have coming up, you've publicly announced the date for that. That's coming up in, when is it again?
Yep, it's August 21st to 23rd. That's at Skirmish Paintball in Albrightsville, PA, Eastern PA. And then we also have Revenant 2, which is in Wyandotte, Oklahoma. That's D-Day Adventure Park. That is going to be September 25th through September 27th. So those are normally spring, early summer games. We had to push them back because of COVID. So now they're late summer, early fall games. But that should be a great time. Those are 2 great fields. If you haven't been to either, they're, in my opinion, places that any airsofter or paintballer should go to in their lifetime. I mean, you look at Skirmish, they host the largest paintball event at least every year in terms of attendance. I mean, they get like something like 3,000 people at their D-Day event in July. And then you go to D-Day Adventure Park in Oklahoma. They have probably the largest paintball field in the world. It's like 700 like actual playable acres, several tall buildings, things like that. So those are two really awesome locations.
Well, and what I love about playing at locations like that is when you bring the player count down, because obviously you just mentioned the D-Day situation has 3,000 players. And then when you have Broken Home used to be at D-Day Adventure Park as well. Are they still doing it there? I don't remember.
I don't know. I know that they used to do it on Memorial Day, but obviously that got pushed back with COVID. I think they have plans to do it in October, but I'm not really sure. I know in the past that they've had people 700 people at Broken Home in years past, which is a lot of people.
Yeah, and when you bring that player count down to the caps of Omega, which is usually 100, 120 players or something like that, it changes the dynamic of the event incredibly.
It feels like the event is way more sparsely populated than it actually is.
Which is the apocalypse.
Exactly,
it feels sparse.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I loved about Desolation, whereas for Desolation, what was the player cap? It was 100, 120 people versus the number of people that actually showed up due to the horrifying weather, which was how many people do you guys have at Desolation
1 was what, less than 30, 40, less than 40, Alex?
The first Desolation, I think, was 30, maybe 35 people total.
Oh,
it was not a lot of people.
But
no one left.
No one left.
That's a word that I would use to describe it.
No one quit.
The point I was trying to make was that with such sparsely populated events, you really do kind of get that immersion. And obviously I'll make the meme about immersions at Milsim events, but there is kind of an immersion at at Omega events where it's just I have an objective that I want to accomplish, and I'm going to accomplish it, and it is in the frame of this actual gameplay versus people being chaos gremlins at other events.
Well, because there's so many real gameplay consequences for fucking around.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
What kind of consequences?
Well, I mean,
should we talk about Sunday morning?
Yeah.
Should we talk about Sunday morning?
Yeah, I mean, Chaos Gremlins don't. It's difficult. I mean, I think in the 5 events that we've had, I think we maybe only had 2 people who would qualify as Chaos Gremlins. And they were summarily just targeted by every other person at the event. I mean, people were putting bounties on them. So just a quick sidebar on our bounty system. I guess a quick rant, then a quick sidebar, then we can get back to the story. A lot of people that do post-apocalyptic events say oh, we're going to have a bounty system in place, bounty this, bounty that. Bounty systems are really hard to actually execute in a gameplay format, right? Because what is a bounty? You have to put a target on someone, and then you're going to pay them money for killing that person, whatever. It's difficult to do when you have regular players, because if I'm a regular player and someone puts a bounty on me, but how do they prove that they actually killed me, right? These are all things that people in their mind, they think oh, having a bounty system is a great idea. It's all right, well, how are you actually going to execute it in the framework of the game, right? So for our bounty system, typically the only named bounties that we have during a game are going to be actually staff players, right? People that are going to put on a costume, go out for 2 hours, cause chaos as a bounty character, and eventually be killed so that someone can take something off of their body and turn in for a reward. It's pretty much the only way that I've found that it works. Any other way is just kind of hopes and wishes, oh, we're going to have a bounty system, fuck you, it sucks. It's not it's a shitty system, in my opinion.
Well, I think the difference with player bounties in Omega is the fact that there are actual consequences for having a bounty out on you, because you can lose all of your in-game items, ammo, various trinkets you've picked up, food that you've bought from traders, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So prior to this event where these Chaos Gremlins were at, we had basically all bounties were always staff players. We'd take a picture before the event, we put it on the bounty board. You have to find and kill this person, which, they're probably only going to be out there for a limited amount of time. So the window for which to find them is going to be very small. But the bounty board is actually, this is kind of one of the many ways in which people have kind of surprised us and adapted some of the pieces of our events and made them work in ways we didn't think that people would do. So the bounty board has become.
I'll have more to talk about with that later.
It's kind of like a sounding board for people. So obviously we have all the bounties on the board, but people, if they lose something, they'll go and put a note on the bounty board saying hey, I lost my Elite Force CO2 pistol. If you find it, I'll give you a couple bullet casings if you can bring it back to Eric or whoever the trader is. And then this particular event, people were literally just go and cause problems for these people, and I will give you casings. They were just they had it with this group of individuals. And it got to the point where they were being targeted so much that Frank actually went and talked with them and was like, listen, you're pissing a lot of people off, which is why they're targeting you and why you're getting killed so frequently. Like, you need to step off the gas and reel it back a little bit, and then you'll probably have a better time. So that's really the only incidents that we had where I think where Frank kind of stepped in and said, you're being assholes, knock it off, or we're going to ask you to leave. Otherwise, it's never really been a problem.
I mean, that's one of the things about Omega that's different from other events where it's like you have a self-policing community, like Matt said. That, you know, if people are being dicks, then, you know, they're going to get constantly targeted and constantly shot on sight.
Exactly. And they were part of a community, and their community members were like asking, like, yo, can we kick them out of this community? Because their negative actions were causing blowback for their community. So they'd go out and, you know, do something aggressively to another community. The community that was the victim of their aggression would be like, F these guys, we're going to go and just attack their community because just on principle, they're being dicks. Yeah. So like, you know, you really got to be careful because your consequences can affect other people. And if that starts to happen, they're really not going to like you.
Well, that's what makes the dynamic of, go ahead.
No, you continue. I can finish my story.
That's what makes the dynamic so exciting for the whole game, right? So you saw more at Desolation 2, a little bit at Revenant, where like you could see that there were consequences to your actions, whether you were player A dealing with NPCs or you were like player on player kind of things where you're like, hey, let's do this thing, and someone got too antsy and the Mexican standoff ended a little poorly for other people, you know? Right? And it kind of just, but that's what made it so fun because to quote a great man, Jonah Hill, people don't forget. And so like I remember on day one when you were like, hey, who's that guy? I don't know, let's shoot him. Or the traitor remembers that one time that when he was crippled, you know, you kicked his crutch out from under him or something like that. Yeah, I remember, Eric. I was there. Or Sunday when you decide to throw grenades into my camp when I just want to drink coffee because the game had just started and I hadn't quite woken up yet. Whatever. That's not important. It's not like anybody's holding it against you forever.
So all this in-game lore like continues on from game to game. Like all the communities remember things that people did last time, and
that's what makes it fun because Alex and Frank are great at setting a stage, setting a scene. Right? They have this excellent frame to make this story go ahead. They're like, hey, it's this year. This is the stuff that's happening, and they have all this ambiance, all this stuff set up, and it's really a testament to a lot of the staff members. Right? They jump in whole hog. And they really sell it, and the players have a great time. You can see it. But like, what makes it even better is at Perdition, you know, New Canada 2 was a holdover from New Canada 1, right? When we were at Desolation. It's like all these people, like, we're building a lore within a lore, a game within a game. It's like Inception. It's crazy. People are having so much fun.
Was that the emergent gameplay possibility? Because it's really like very free form. Like there's a lot that you can do within it. Basically, the world is your oyster when you go into this game. Like short of being a total fucking chaos gremlin dick and like actively trying to sabotage people's good time, like you can do whatever you want. And you can really, it's a choose your own adventure. So the emergent gameplay possibilities and the different stories that people can create for themselves are incredible.
And one thing that we really haven't talked about a whole lot is the fact that pretty much anybody can come in as whatever character they want to play. I know for an example that I brought up that I was planning to do with Lane, the BB Warrior, is that we were going to go as
Don't spoil it.
I don't know if it's going to happen at this point, but we were going to go as two very well-known characters in gunfighter ballads, I guess is the only way to say it. And just be absolute fucking idiots the way that we played. But I was super excited to do that until Desolation 3 ended up getting postponed. However, you can play as whatever you want. I mean, in a previous event, Garrett went as Burt Gummer, like from the Tremors series, and it's yeah, you can play as play as whoever you want.
Down to the Atlanta Hawks hat, like it was amazing. He grew his facial hair out to get the Burt Gummer mustache. It was amazing.
Nice.
And like the shittier and more homeless that you look, the better of a time you're gonna have, because the more immersive your character is going to be.
So if you want to just walk on as like some forgotten desperado, like cowboys or something from the old world, like you could totally just bust that out.
Absolutely.
What's
Sweet,
the party,
sweet
dude?
lever actions for days.
Oh yeah.
And the lever actions will be perfect because they'll probably feed whatever BBs you give them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can run
true.
anything you want through those guns.
Yeah, but mobility is key though. Like one of the things, that we say at the very beginning of our rule set is like, this is, a 40-hour event. This is not a costume convention, where like, people will say to us like, oh, I want to wear like Fallout style power armor. I wanted to like, dress up like, some, crazy character from Mad Max. And it's like, that's fine, but just remember, you're going to have to be wearing that for 3 days, right? Like, it's not like
or
you're
it's going to have to be scalable enough that you can like deal with it.
Yeah, like you can wear it in for the cool factor, but then you have to carry it in one, but then you also have to be able to take it off and be able to sleep. I mean, it's not like you're just spending only 2 hours in an air-conditioned convention center, right? Like you're 40 hours outside, it could rain. You want to be able to move around fast. Like that's the biggest, going back to the weapons piece. Like the reason why a lot of people prefer pistols is they can run fast with a pistol, get in and out of cover, and if they have to retreat, they can just boogie out. You know what I mean? And they can hide it very easily too. So if you need to hide a pistol and then pull it out quickly for some reason, it's another that's another beneficial thing as well.
Definitely. I mean, I think for Desolation 2, no one knew that Typhon was packing like the entire time for probably like the first 12 to 18 hours. It was just always strapped up, had one like in a holster on the chest. Like no one knew. They were like, what do you have in there? It's like, brothers, it's obviously the good word. Stand back. It's like no one knew.
Yeah, but everyone knew you were an asshole by the time the night raid came around.
That's not important. That's not the point. I mean, I think Eric and I, we have agree. Eric and I touch tips and agree on a lot of things, but satchels, right? Satchels are key.
Satchel gang, hell yeah,
right?
Satchel
like,
gang.
If you don't have a satchel at Omega, are you even playing? So Alex is talking about the 40-hour event, right? Everything you have to bring in everything you want, whether it's your camping gear, the stuff the clothes you're gonna change in, all the way to a certain extent, like the water you're gonna drink, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You got to put it on your back. You got to walk in where you're going to go. The first 2 events that I went to, I was just like, yeah, I need all these things. It doesn't matter. I've got to ruck 3 times my height. I'm trying to go through the woods, navigate things. And by the time I get there, I'm like, I don't think I need any of this stuff. I got an umbrella. I'm good. Like, it's fine. As you continue to go to the games, like you refine things and you realize that you don't need 40 pounds of things. You want more food because you're going to eat it. You're going to want more water because you need to drink it. You want to stay dry and you want to sleep comfortably. That's about it. Outside of those things, it doesn't matter.
But
do you need a fire ring?
Within the more food thing, though, there is a limit on the food, which I think is very brilliant in order to make it so that you don't have people who just bring in so much food that they have surplus food and that they are basically trading food all weekend. You are limited to a 1 gallon bag of food. You want to explain the rationale behind that, Alex?
Yeah, so that was, the first couple events we didn't have a food limit. And then, Frank had the idea that he wanted people to challenge themselves more and have it feel more of like a disparate setting where like you're actually struggling. So I can't remember when we actually imposed the limit. It might have been
Desolation 1.
Desolation 2.
Desolation 1. Desolation 1 was the gallon bag.
Because I had 1 gallon bag of food that I brought with me.
I want to say, I thought Revenant had it too.
Okay, so maybe it was Desolation 1. All right.
Desolation 1 forward, they all had the 1 gallon bag.
Yeah, so I think we did beta, and one of the things that we learned from beta was that, all right, we need to make food and water a little bit harder to come by, because again, it is the apocalypse. So typically the rule for an event is you can start the event with a 1 gallon Ziploc bag filled with food. So people will, pack mountain houses, they'll take things out of, boxes, shove them in a 1 gallon bag. People can actually fit
main entrees and stuff.
Yeah, you can fit a lot of food in a 1 gallon bag.
As long as it easily sustain the 3 days with that 1 gallon bag.
Oh yeah,
easily.
Smart.
Yeah, very easily. It won't be like you won't be like eating like a king, but you'll definitely be able to survive for 3 days on what you fit in a 1 gallon bag. And then we also allow people to start the event with up to 1 gallon of water. And the thing with our events is we actually provide food and water supplemental throughout the event. So typically, Frank will make chili. And if Cooler's around, he'll help.
Oh, that chili's so gangster. Oh,
that chili is
so
fucking awesome.
So we'll typically do
just
chili
go to the
on
event
Saturday.
for the chili. Fuck the game. Just go for the chili.
It's so good.
We have like canned food, like ravioli, SpaghettiOs, like canned vegetables and things like that. Like things that like if you're really hungry, you'll eat them. But if you're not that hungry, you'll be like, yeah, I'll pass on that.
Well, but then there's
like
also like
soda.
vanity food as well that you can buy in the in-game economy.
Yep, like Snickers and things like that, just kind of like comfort food.
We had like Jiffy Pop, and we had what else? Hot chocolate as well, like hot.
Well,
chocolate
I think that was stuff that people bought to trade. So the first Desolation, Will was our trader. He brought Jiffy Pop to actually trade with people, and he was actually trading Jiffy Pop and things like that. So those like those creature comforts that people want, especially like late at night around a fire, like those things definitely come in handy. And then the water. We limit you to a gallon of water. And what we used to do at events is actually have just packages of water. We'd buy like cases of water, bring them to the event. The trader would carry some around. We'd have a central trading hub, cases of water stacked up. People could trade for water. What we started doing at recent events is actually having water filters that the communities actually have to find, trade, build, whatever, so that they can actually have a way to filter water in their community, right?
So a constant source of water through a water filter.
Exactly. So they'll have, typically the water filter will become something that's available Friday night, Saturday morning. They'll go out, find the water filter, have to put it together. Sometimes they'll have to go and speak with someone that knows how to build a water filter. It depends, and we have different things that we can do with that. But essentially the end goal is that the community ends up with their own water filter, and then they have to go and find water and then run it through the water filter so that the community can actually have potable water to drink throughout the weekend.
Yeah. Someone asked in chat, is it allowed to bring stuff? Can people bring stuff that they want to trade in the in-game economy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people, when they think things to trade, they think food. So, if you're bringing things like Jiffy Pop or Snickers or whatever, that still has to fit in your 1 gallon bag. And a lot of people typically bring enough food for themselves. Food is not something that they're typically looking to trade for the most part. So what I recommend is bringing things that people can take with them after the event, like little trinkets, right? So at Desolation,
or if you're trading with me, bring cigars.
Yeah, like cigars, cigarettes, tobacco. That's a
the real currency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's 21 and older. So you got to be careful now, Alex. 21 and older.
Wait, it's 21 now?
A lot of states, yeah.
Well, I think Pennsylvania is still 18.
Well,
I just can't
events in
in
Pennsylvania and
conscience
Oklahoma.
recommend that anyone under 21 smoke. Like, let's be honest. Really, you can't in good conscience recommend anyone smoke. But I smoke cigars, so bring them for me.
You look super cool when you do it, though. So that's
absolutely.
That is for everybody.
If you want to look like a
cigar.
gangster as the Arizona Ranger with a stogie hanging out your mouth, tobacco products, A+.
But at Desolation 2, we had a group come, and they brought pins with them. They were the Church of the Morning Wood, which is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek reference. The pins that they brought were very tongue-in-cheek. But it was everyone wanted a pin. I was running the event. I was like, I want a pin. Like, I'm gonna go trade them for a pin because I want a pin. Like, this is cool. So bringing things that are unique are definitely cool tradable items. We had another guy come. He was our junk trader at Desolation 2. He brought like these old, like kind of decrepit yo-yos that he was like kind of trading with people. So that was like another cool thing that people could take with them at the end of the event. And kind of learning from that, Frank and I have decided that we're going to try to have more like in-game trinkets and things like that people can earn or find throughout the event. And again, I'm not going to give too much away because Frank and I are big believers in not talking about anything until we have like the physical items in our hands. So we'd be like, this is what we have and this is what we want to do. So we're probably a couple weeks away from announcing that type of stuff, but definitely going to have more stuff for people to kind of take home with them, at the end of events, which I think is pretty cool. I think people are inherently collectors of items, so should feed that need for a lot of people.
Well, and especially because you're basically getting more, costume pieces as a result of things like that. Because you can
totally more flair.
Yeah.
If you've been to a couple events and you're doing things the right
way.
You
owe me a lot of flair.
I do. I have envelopes that I'm going to be sending flair out to people. So if again, not
mine's going to be more like a palette.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be. it's gonna be like freight delivery to Eric's apartment for all the swag that he has for the events that he's been to. But, basically, anyone that's coming to a future event will have some stuff to give to you to take home. If you've already been to an event, we'll be doing some outreach to try and get in touch with you, get your mailing address, and mail some stuff to you for having attended previous events. So again, I'm not going to reveal what it is that we're going to be doing. It'll probably a couple weeks away from that, but it'll be some cool stuff. I think people will be pretty stoked to have it.
Yeah, I mean, in a previous podcast we had Josh Warren on, and he was saying that like, based off of the event structure that you guys have, he's unbelievably impressed in what you guys have managed to put together, because it's kind of unlike literally anything that's been done, even in the post-apocalyptic, sort of brand of airsoft. It's kind of unlike anything else that people have done before, and I can personally say you will have an unbelievable amount of fun at Omega events. And it really is that Type 2 fun where when you look back at it, it's like, that was fucking awesome. I mean, having that last stand with Eric where he was giving some just massive diatribe on just nihilistic values, and then he got shot and I committed suicide immediately afterwards. Just
it was
perfect.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what we strive to go for. Like so Frank, the idea of Omega was really Frank's, right? Like if you've played airsoft at the national level or on the East Coast, like you probably know Frank Yuck in some way, shape, or form, right? So I got to know Frank because we were both in Buffalo. He used to own the Warzone. I played there a lot. He came to me the idea, and I was like, fuck it. Like, let's do it, And his big thing was, like, I just want people to be able to have these memories, and experiences, but then, as part of the event, be able to talk about them, right? So if you read our rule set, if you've been to one of our events, you know that we have kind of goggles off time during the night in the communities. So while the game is still happening outside of the communities between the hours of, typically sunset and sunrise, just typically 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., we allow people to actually remove their eye protection as long as, all the weapons are cleared and things like that. That's the community leader's job. But once that's done, people can kind of just sit around the fire, eat, chat, chat about their day, and and really kind of bond. So that's one of the biggest things that we wanted to make sure happened at our events, which I think is just super cool. People will just sit around the fire and be like, oh, I did this today. And Frank and I, that's when we really try to go out and talk with people and be like, hey, what did you do today? Like, how are you having a good time? People like, oh, I did this. I did that. Like, this was crazy. Like, last night we were around, we did this, and we were freaked out. We just ran away. That's like the stuff that we really love to hear, and people, even people coming to us and saying like, hey, I've been to several airsoft events before, and I've never really like, had a group or like people that like I've been friendly with. But this is the first event where like I really feel like I've been a part of something, and that's just like huge for us. Like, we love hearing that when people feel like they come and they can be like, be like very good friends with people that they just met just because of like some silly airsoft game with a post-apocalyptic thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that I got friendly with the older gentleman at the first Desolation. I don't remember his name, but he was the guy who almost had a tree fall on him in the middle of the night.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How does this happen?
Terrible inclement weather, but yeah.
I'm gonna throw back to another connection made Desolation, but Yak and I obviously had met at Bad Blood, but it was kind of briefly, and neither of us remembered much of it. But what was great about Desolation was, even though Yak and I were on opposite ends of things, I think Desolation really, like, that shared experience
solidified
that solidified our friendship. And
that was my first experience with Matt. Like, just, I don't like long speeches, and just getting blasted with
I mean, you think about it. Like, I mean, we now all talk about doing hee-haw, which is maybe a separate podcast of how to do your own hee-haw. But I mean, if you like look at the people that come to the hee-haw things that we do, it's like pretty much everyone. The common thread amongst everyone is that they do Omega events. Right? Yeah. Like, we have different people from like the Buffalo group, the Long Island group, GunGamers, but like the common thread amongst everyone is that they do Omega events in some way, shape, or form. And that's really how we all met and became friends. And now we do stupid BB LARP shit, while drinking White Claws on the weekend sometimes.
Well, and what I think out at Acacia String concerts, but continue.
Yeah, blacked out at Acacia String concerts.
That's mostly
or
you.
Injuring your
and getting lung
concert.
cancer at the Owl Shop next.
Oh God, we need to go back to the Owl Shop once that place reopens.
I know
it's by me. It's by me.
That was a great weekend. Owl Shop, GZA on Sunday. It's a match made in heaven.
Yes.
But shit, what was I gonna say? Damn it. Oh my god, I totally lost my thought. I'm sorry.
While you're thinking of that, I'm going to grab a little bit more coffee grain whiskey. I'll be back in a quick
all right,
second.
what should we talk about? Yeah, to tack on to what Alex is talking about, with like, it really is what you make of it. So I have played on both sides of it, right? I played in the first, I guess technically second, right? Beta was number 1.
Beta was number 1.
Okay, so I've been to every event
Demon
except for
Seed
Beta.
was number 0.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I've been to game 1.5. Yeah, sorry. Eric, 13-year-old, talking about airsoft, couldn't hold an AEG over his head at the time.
I've been to every event.
So playing at these Omega games, right? I played as a player character, right? I was a purchasing customer, just like the vast majority of us. And I was just like, oh, this is super cool, super fun. Desolation, had a great time. Yeah, it was very cold. Yeah, it was terrible and miserable. But like Eric and Alex are saying, like it formed these amazing friendships, these bonds that I made with all these people. It made me want to come back for more. I was willing to pay Alex more money to make me uncomfortable and possibly die, right? That's how fun it was. We drove to Oklahoma from New York, right? Halfway across the country.
That's rough.
I played a sheriff, and it was so great. I deputized everybody, right? No authority to do this. Alex has no idea what I'm doing. He's just curious. I'm just like, you're all deputies now, handing them all sheriff's badges. And these people were so excited to take them. They were like, oh my God, yes, let's uphold the law. What are we doing again? Like, they didn't care. They were having fun. So like Alex was saying, the most fun I've had at, honestly, these Omega games as a player character is bringing people into this story that I've woven, if you will, just to have fun. You can pretend to be who you want. Yes, you can be sergeant, lieutenant, blah, 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 power armor guy from Fallout 4, you know, thank you for your service. Or you could just be this random dude who rolls in off the street and you made something up 5 seconds ago. Omega makes it so that you can have as much fun, like high or low, as you want, and it'll probably work. If you sell it a little bit more, people will probably really enjoy it, and it'll enhance everybody else's experience. That's what makes it so fun. And then when I got to come to the other side, if you're cool, it gets way more exciting.
Yeah,
I won't even talk about that because that's beyond the scope of this discussion.
Well, yeah. So Eric has used the. Go ahead.
We have a great staff of people who are willing to help us out at all these events, which I think is, you know, a huge driver of our success, you know, and the reason why the events go so well, and the reason why it's very difficult to do, you know, these types of events. Because if you don't have a large staff to help out with everything, things kind of go south very quickly. I mean, our staff to participant ratio is probably about 1 to 5, maybe 1 to 4. So for every 4 people that pay for a ticket, we have 1 person that's there to just be a non-player character and kind of put everyone else's needs ahead of their own, right? Like I think that is
unheard of.
By far the biggest driver of our success is just, you know, an insane amount of NPCs who are willing to kind of put all this work in on the back end to make sure that everyone that comes and pays for their ticket is having a fantastic time for 4 hours.
One thing I was going to bring up before you mentioned the NPCs was the fact that, like, with Omega events, you get a level of emergent gameplay, as Eric likes to call it, that you don't get at really any other event. And obviously, it sounds like we're just shilling for Omega, but we fucking love these events. Because when I say
we are, but we're doing it because we love them.
Exactly. We are shilling, but you should go to these events. They're great. Spend money.
I've been to Milsim West, to DFE, to Lion Claws, and I've never experienced anything not even close to that kind of level. I mean, not saying anything's bad about Milsim West. I love Milsim West.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're not talking shit about anybody. But
there's nothing that's like this, where you have like post-apocalyptic world, make your own character, make your own adventure, trading stuff, bringing trinkets. Like, it's so involved and so deep. Like, it makes me sad.
It's an airsoft event where airsoft really isn't the main focus of the event.
Yeah, I mean, that's rad.
Yeah,
and granted, you know, there's
social
the battle hack games like Revelations where they do post-apocalyptic LARP as well. But, you know, a lot of the people who've come to Omega have also done Revelations, and it's just 2 different approaches. So they're not really very comparable. Like, they seem comparable on the surface, but I don't think you could attend both events and feel like one was really in the same genre as the other, because it's just different approaches for different audiences.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges, right? Like, I think it'd be difficult to compare Milsim West to, like, DFE, the same owners, but like very different approaches to, the Milsim genre. I think the same is probably can be said for us versus Revelations, which it looks like an awesome event. I really want to go to one. Chesapeake, Virginia is only 8 hours away. That's not a terrible drive. So I'd love to go down to like a Revelations or Fertile Crescent and just kind of see what that's all about. Because I mean, they get like 800 people. They sell that event out so quickly. So it's pretty impressive what Chris has been able to do down at Ballhack, just from that event's perspective, but also just an airsoft community perspective for a field. I mean, that place is really turning into like the mecca of airsoft in the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime I hear anything about Ballhack, they just constantly talk about how great the field is, and that's kind of one of the places I want to do a hee-haw at.
Yeah.
Give me a year, boys. But no, I've done both. Rev is super exciting. It's like you were saying, it brings a culture, a world of its own, right? The same way you've cultivated this community of people who talk about Omega, and whether you have loud people like Eric and myself, or like more quiet people like Dan, right? Folks like that who
Dan's
are like
quiet. You could have fooled me.
He's loud in our circle, but he's pretty reserved amongst other people. But no, like Rev is a completely different animal, super wild. I remember I got chased off the field in 2014 because I shot an NPC, and they got all the people together to like, these people attacked us, right? Get them. And I was like, oh God, me? Running away as fast as I could. But no, I think, I think Artemis was talking about the distinct difference between what Rev and Omega brings, and I think they are two very, I can't even say opposite sides of a coin. They are two very distinct worlds that, yes, have the same frame, if that makes sense, but outside of that, like, they're unique to each one of them, and I would go to both every time just for fun.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
You may have noticed we have a bit of a bias, but that has its own inherent roots in the fact that we love these events. I mean, if you go and watch the review that Eric and I did on the first Desolation back in, what was that, like October 2018?
Yeah, it was right after that event. It was fresh on the heels.
Oh, honest to God, like, you can see the excitement in both of our faces. A much less fat Ian and Eric talking about how much they love these events.
The quarantine bods have not been good to us.
Ian's growing some titties. You don't like it, but to be 100% honest,
boneless wings, dog.
Too much boneless wings. But honest to God, really, if you wanna see pure joy in the faces of Ian and Eric, go and watch that review. It's like 45 minutes of pure just bliss as we rant on about how good the event was.
I have not stopped talking about that event. What I love about that event is because I mentioned Demon Seed briefly. Frank hosted at the Warzone back in, like, was it 2010 or 2011?
Time ago.
Yeah, he hosted this event called Demon Seed, which was my first experience with Airsoft LARP, and I fucking loved it. And I was so into it. I had so much fun. And this was like, not peak fat Eric, but like fatter Eric. Yeah, I just fucking adored that game. And then I basically had to wait 8 years for a proper follow-up going to Desolation. And that shit was fucking awesome. Being able to have that experience of this nostalgia of, oh my God, I'm playing a Frank LARP game again. And it's everything I wanted it to be and more, and it's better. And every time I go to Omega, I'm chasing that high of that, just that unique experience you don't get anywhere else, and I love that about it.
Yeah. So you got a couple of really good questions in the chat. Does Omega have any plans for hosting events out in the western side of the United States and in Canada?
Do it.
We would love to do Western U.S. or Canada. I mean, I would love to do an event at Victorville. I think that has like an amazing setting for what we're looking to do. Georgia
Air Force Base for life.
I heard it's not terribly expensive. The the biggest problem when doing events outside of our territory, like I live on Long Island, which is east of New York City. Frank lives in Buffalo. So, I mean, the two of us are about 8 hours apart in terms of driving. Oklahoma is very far for us. Like I fly to Oklahoma. Frank typically rents a truck and drives down with a couple staff members with all of our stuff. The biggest problem with going out to the West Coast is that Frank, no way in hell Frank's driving. I'm not driving. We're both flying. So the question becomes, how do we get, the props and things that we need for that event out there, which is one, which isn't, it's probably a logistics thing that we could solve pretty easily. Like if we contacted Enola Gay, like, hey, can you send smokes and grenades to Victorville? Or even you're like, hey, can you send them to Kaylee's office in LA and she'll grab them for us and bring it to the event? Things like that.
I just hit up Darren and I'm sure he'd be happy about that.
The biggest issue that we run into though is staff. Like I mentioned before, we typically aim for like a 4 to 5, to 1 participant to staff ratio at our event. So if we're doing a 100-person event at Victorville, that means we need 25 staff members that can come out to that event. So Frank and I are 2. The other 23 people, it's hard for us to get people that we know and trust to help out with that event. Like we may get some people from the East Coast, like Eric would probably fly, like Matt Iacovino would probably fly if he's feeling particularly spunky and he gets Rose's approval. Ian may fly, but it becomes like an issue where like Frank and I have to say, okay, we're going to do Victorville, we have to contact them, pay the deposit. All right, now we need to get people committed to going out there and helping us out with this event. And then we also need to make sure people are buying tickets, right? Because while we may be becoming more of a known entity in the Northeast, out on the West Coast, people may say like Omega, like what the fuck is that? Like I'm not buying some ticket to an event that's never been out here before. So there's all those things that are
well,
kind
Alex,
of risky.
That's why we have you here, so we could shill you on our platform and make sure everyone hears of you.
Exactly. But I mean, like you look at other event companies. I think Josh and Jet, doing Milsim West and DFE are really the only ones who have successfully expanded, across the United States and had good events, on both coasts, right? Like most of the other event companies are still pretty regional. They go outside of their regions of influence. They have a hard time selling tickets, right? I mean, you look at like AMS, like they are predominantly like a Midwest, Southwest company, moving to the Northeast. Like that's still like something that's more difficult for them to do. And they've sold out, 700-person events for the last, 7-8 years. So that's kind of like one thing in the back of our mind when it comes to expanding on the West Coast. I mean, even Oklahoma is a tall order for us, but it was something that we decided, like, even if we lose money, we're going to do it because we want to establish ourselves as a national event company. And we want to do an event at D-Day because we know it's a great place to do an event and it helps expand our footprint outside of the Northeast.
And that's what kind of separates you guys from like, other event companies is that like, your primary focus is hosting awesome fucking events that really kind of give the people that attend them a memorable experience versus just making money. And I mean, there's plenty of other companies that do the same thing, but I don't really know of anybody who does it the same way that you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to make money off of this, but Frank and I both have jobs outside of this, and it's like pretty much breaking even. Like we once you pay for the event fees and pay for all of pyrotechnics and travel and extra things like food and water for people at events, like it's hard to make money charging prices that we do and having limits that we set. I mean, ultimately the goal is to maybe get more efficient at running these events, maybe increase the maximum amount of people like 150, maybe 200, and maybe increase the price slightly. But at the end of the day, like Frank and I know that we're probably not going to retire off of doing Omega events. That's very unlikely.
It's kind of a passion project for you guys versus like a no shit. This is a retirement.
Yeah, I mean we enjoy doing it. I mean because we love obviously Frank and I love seeing each other, spending time with each other. We love seeing you guys, hanging out with you guys. So really it's an excuse to kind of, go away with our friends for a weekend camping trip where there's also airsoft involved,
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
There's actually
there's lots of LARPing.
Yeah. There's some really good questions in the chat too. So Devil Lantern, who I think is other Eric, he says, how have you seen the games evolve with the experience returning players bring and or staff that's added to the games, the things they've added that you didn't see when developing Omega?
Yeah, 100%. So on both accounts, right? So NPCs will come to, most NPCs before they become NPCs are regular player characters, right? Like with the exception of like Eric and Ian and like Cooler and Max, like those 4 people, like pretty much everyone else has been a PC before they were staff. So people will come as a player character and then like learn from that experience. Like, oh man, when I'm an NPC, I'm gonna do this. And then they're an NPC once and say, oh man, next event, I did this, that, and the other thing for Desolation 2. The next time I come to an event, I'm gonna do this and improve upon this, right? So everyone's always looking to improve, do things better, be more efficient, just be better overall at the next event. Same thing with player characters, right? Like you mentioned before, you brought like 40 pounds of stuff with you. Player characters will make that mistake once and then decide like, okay, I need this. I definitely don't need this. So I'm going to come to the next event and rather, coming in, with a bunch of stuff in my back, bags hanging off me, like 4 different guns. I'm going to come in with one gun, like a rucksack, and that's going to be it. And I'll be a much more efficient, participant at the next event when I'm there. So definitely, that's really the theme of the event is, constant improvement, trying to make yourself better, challenge yourself, and, enjoy yourself at the same time.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the community that Omega has built is the returning players coming back. They do elevate the experience, even if they don't come back as staff. They elevate the experience of all of the players who are with them, who are new players, because now you've got basically built-in guides in the game, and they all know what's up, and they can help police people, they can help guide people, and they usually come back because they're into the role play and into the story, and those are the people you can really see just get into it and drive the game's narrative, and it's awesome.
Absolutely. So like NPCs drive narrative, but at more and more events recently, we've seen player characters drive narrative, which is really cool to see. So this is an example from Perdition. We have a group. I don't know. I don't remember any of their names, but they're a group of like, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, we know who you're talking about.
They came to Desolation 2. They were just regular player characters. They came to Perdition as hippies, and everyone was kind of keeping them at arm's length. Like, yeah, they're like I think they keep saying they're all like about peace and love, but I'm pretty sure they've got like a ulterior motive going on, at this event. So like people were kind of like talking about the hippies, like what's going on with them. I see them walking around giving people flowers and giving peace signs, but I'm not really sure what they're about, right? So that was another way, just people that again they pay for tickets, they come as a group, and they add to the narrative, they add to other people's experience. So when people can do that again, that's just awesome. And you have this kind of, amalgamation of, NPCs, PCs, just kind of doing things. It's really like what I say, it's almost like a giant improv, right? Where you're given a cue, the cue is post-apocalyptic survival, and people are kind of taking that and doing what they see fit to make the story work.
Yeah, it's really a social experiment in a lot of ways. Frank has called it that before, so I'm totally stealing his wording. It is a social experiment, and Nathaniel Howard in the chat just said yes, and the rule of improv, right? And that's really what it is. You're seeing how far people can push themselves into whatever shared fantasy is created, and it always weirds me out to leave an Omega game. Because usually they're also like on fields that have no cell service and shit. Because, middle of the woods, middle of nowhere. So I'll leave these games and I will be in this weird headspace where I'm like, oh, wait, I could actually just walk into a store and buy food now. I don't have to harass somebody and, shake them down and steal their shit anymore. Oh,
40 hours has
that poor old woman.
Memory.
Dude, I swear to God, when we were coming back from Omega, I think we were stopping at like a rest stop, and half of me was like, "Where's my smoke wagon?" The other half of me was like, "Oh fuck, no, I don't need that."
I need to rob this place right now. Gotta get that loot.
Slap down the high kappa. One pack of gum, good sir.
You got any more of that? You got any more of that lemonade powder?
Oh yeah, that was a big one at Desolation too.
Oh, it was. That's what makes the experience, honestly. Like, you can sell somebody an experience. I could tell you that we're going post-apocalyptic. I could tell you we're going to the moon, right? Any of these other events, right? I can set whatever frame you want. Omega just makes it, the people that come, that's what makes it honestly exciting, right? That's what makes it unique. The customers, the experience you get from the return players, the new players, the NPCs, all that. It just makes it so fun that's why people come back, right? Like you wonder why people pay 50, 80, 100, $200 for airsoft events, right? Like wonder why people are paying $100 or more, right? Depending on whatever Alex is charging to go be inconvenienced in the woods, right? No toilet paper, no running showers, no water, right? Bring only the food you can fit in a backpack. People keep coming back to do that because it's fun, because the people that are there. That's why you want to go.
Yeah. It's to make memories. That's really the main reason you go to events, is to make memories, and there's few events like Omega where you can make as many memories as you do.
Yeah, wow. And like there's so many like just fun time, like just kind of like little snippets that you take out. Like I think the Castle Assault of Desolation 2 was very fun. I think the memory that sticks out to me the most, and it's one of our staff members, Rob. I'm not gonna say his last name. I don't know if he wants to be saying his last name, but Rob. You know Rob. He goes by Mr. Quill is typically his in-game persona, right? So at Perdition, we asked Rob to be a community leader. Rob is a very, very good community leader, for what that job entails. And where most people, this is like kind of like the brilliance of what Rob did. So most people, when they come to a post-apocalyptic event, no matter what character they want to be, they're going to be a badass version of that character, right? Like, I'm a badass mailman, I'm a badass cowboy, I'm a badass this or that. Rob decided to play Perdition as a total coward, which is amazing. Like it's like such a simple idea, but it was so smart because it's like, yeah, like not everyone in the post-apocalypse is going to be like, yeah, let's go fucking run these fools over and take their shit. Like he was like, oh guys, I don't know if we should do that. So I think it was Saturday night we had the Four Horsemen kind of show up in the game space with their kind of legion of followers. And really the scenario for Saturday night was that the Four Horsemen were kind of just in the middle of the field, like you got to go and get them out of there, because if you don't, they're going to cause problems, right? And I think the night before they were going around like kind of spooking people. So we were kind of at the pond, center of the field, and the multiple communities were kind of starting to surround us and figuring out what we were all about. Big firefight ensued, whatever. Surprisingly, I thought we were going to last longer than we did, right? So most of the staff was like the Four Horsemen and their acolytes. They killed us very quickly because they were the communities were very smart and decided to flank us from the rear, which I didn't think was going to be possible because there were thorn bushes. And I remember saying to several people, no way they're going to flank us from behind. We're going to hear them coming from a mile away. I was very wrong. Anyway,
I think it was Joe and his group that did that.
No, I was with Joe. It was Rob and his boys, because I was on the radio. Jeb said, "Hey, you guys up there, yeah, go get him." That was a 20-minute ordeal. Don't pretend that this is a light thing. This took a lot of orchestrating.
So they dragged Mr. Quill the Coward along with them, right? So I think they killed a lot of us very quickly. I was still alive along with AJ. And we were laying in these tall weeds as the community started to surround us and just completely eradicate our group. And I heard Rob in the bushes, like saying to himself, "Oh my God, I'm so scared. Guys, we're all going to die. I don't know what we're going to do. Oh, guys, I'm so scared." And I don't know if anyone else could hear him but me, but I remember thinking like, oh my God, Rob, you are a genius. Like, this is so amazing. To like be adding this level of immersion to everyone else's experience, that like he's just shitting himself right now. Like obviously Rob isn't shitting himself in real life. He's very experienced at like being outdoors and camping, but his character was a complete coward and he played that very well, and it added to like everyone else's experience of like, holy shit, like we could actually die.
Yeah. So someone put, other Eric, the Buffalo Bill Burr, said, another Frankism, you get in, or you get out what you put in. Really, when it comes to like this kind of event, like the more that you put into this event, the more that you're going to get out of it. In terms of like memories that you've made and that whole type 2.
Well, because the game doesn't spoon feed you either.
No, it doesn't.
Like we talk a lot about like, the different things that people can do and the different things that, there are some elements that, might be a little set up, but like
you got to go out and get those things.
yeah, nothing's gonna be done for you. Like, you're not gonna get spoon fed. You're not gonna get a call on the radio of like, go to Sector Bravo Charlie at 1300 hours and be in formation with a kit layout. Like, that's not what the game is. You might hear like someone might drop something like word of mouth that sounds like it's nothing, but maybe it's like an adventure that you could go have.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember in the first Desolation we went to, there was some sort of objective that either Alex or Frank put in this random part of the field, and it ended up turning into a 3-way gunfight between, like...
And no one lived.
No one lived. All of us got slaughtered.
But yeah.
Even his staff at the first Desolation, I was getting into it. I'm like, Eric? Oh, fuck, he's dead. Shit.
Yeah, staff definitely gets into it, too. And
oh, yeah. For sure.
So, I mean, again, like going back to our rule set, like this is like the things I mentioned are all things like on the first couple of pages, because we don't want to fool anyone. Like we want to let you know very clearly what it is our events are about and what they're not about. And we tell people like, this is not a first person video game, right? Like this event doesn't exist for your sole gratification. There's 100 people here to enjoy this event as a collective. So if you're here and expect for, everyone to come up to you and give you like quests or missions or whatever, and you're going to be able to go out and find every little collectible that there is and complete every single mission, like that's not going to happen. Nah. It's just not the way this works. Like to get that experience, you need to pay tens of thousands of dollars and have several actors like act out an event for you. You know what I mean? Like this is everyone trying to enjoy a single event. So you may not be able to complete, much less, I mean, you're not going to know about or be able to complete every single thing that's out there. Like those are things you're going to have to hear through stories sitting around the campfire. Like, oh, I did this today. Like, you did what? Like, oh yeah, this guy like said this and this thing. We went and found this. We shot these people, and then we came back and traded it for this. And like, wow, I had no idea that was going on. I was over here doing this other thing, which is also very interesting.
Yeah,
That's
and
rad.
And I think that's really what makes it unique, is that so much of it is driven by your own experience and your own perspective, and that it's not a guided tour. It really just gives you the freedom to create that for yourself. And like I said, I keep being the fucking emergent gameplay, but that's really what it is. Even as much of a sweaty nerd term as that is, it's all these systems that interact, and the players taking those systems and bringing them in the interesting directions that they can bring them. And that's really what makes the event special. And that's why you get that social experiment bonding element to it that I think happens more at Omega than any other game I've been to, which might also just be, because of the type of player that game draws.
Yeah. I think
Absolutely.
Also just the fact that there's like a safe zone, like that at a certain time during the day, you can actually just chill out and kit down and actually have conversations with people without worrying about like an EG-67 coming through the window and killing everybody.
Well, I mean, that comes down to the fact that's another part of the rule set where it's like, no one's running nods, no one's running battery-powered, attachments for their rifles or anything like that, because, it doesn't fit into the gameplay. Obviously, people have, like, headlamps and red lights and stuff like that, but, people aren't running, night vision and, IR lasers and all that kind of shit. So
and 1,000 lumen flashlights. So you're kind of restricted to, like, hey, daylight hours are when we fight. No one owns the night in this perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's intentional.
Yeah.
Intentionally. I mean, it allows you to kind of...
It makes the night games, or I shouldn't say games, it makes the night scenarios much, much more claustrophobic. Like when you do the night scenarios at our events, I mean, it's just like people on top of other people, like literally listening for like twigs to break or people whispering and just shooting at noises.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what it is.
I mean, I imagine it's just pitch black out there. Like if this is just in the middle of some forest or whatever,
Depends on the weather. I've played in complete darkness and complete moonlight, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, sometimes there's torches set out depending on what the location is, and sometimes you've got a trader who now has 2 crippled legs on the ground next to one of those torches who has to like climb up it to put it out so that the players can come get him and help him off.
It sort of sounds like it was you, but
it might have been. Sure. There might be video of this as well. Camera Ninja.
There could be. Yeah, there could be Desolation 1 where it's just grenade nighttime fights where you just see sparks flying through the air. You're like, what is that? It's like, I don't know.
Let's go find
Never
out.
mind, we figured it out.
Well, we had multiple instances at Desolation 1 where we just had random people showing up to our camp at 8:30 p.m. and it's pitch black out, and they're like, yeah, we can't find our camp. And we're like, oh, fuck.
That was me. That was me.
Yeah.
Can you guys help us?
Yeah,
we don't know where to go.
Can we share tents with you?
I'll share a
no
tent
shit.
with Matt.
It was cold enough that Eric and I were very, very much considering just spoons.
I slept because I slept under a fucking tarp lean-to that I had improperly made. So the tarp was hanging low with the rain and touching my body. And I was sleeping in a bivy sack with a whoopee. I didn't even have a sleeping bag.
I was in a whoopee alone.
Sounds
I had
terrible.
I had a sleep mat and a whoopee. I was too dumb to bring my fucking sleep system. So I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'll be fine. It'll, whoopies are nice and warm. And then, cute 3 days later when I'm chattering my teeth, I'm like, I should have brought a sleep system. Holy shit, it's cold.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing. It was cute.
No, that's why the fact that we didn't know what we were doing is the same reason why people like vanilla WoW. It's like they didn't know what they were doing at the time, and going to that whole nostalgic aspect of just fucking around and figuring your way out through this emergent world was just, oh god, that's why I think that Desolation 1 was pure perfection.
Yeah, like you said, it's part of the immersion, it's part of the whole experience.
Absolutely,
and that's what makes memories.
It
like
is
when
type
you're
2 fun.
shivering and almost dying, and then you need to spoon your buddy for warmth. I mean, these are great memories.
Absolutely.
And burn your socks to start a fire.
Yeah.
And if Chris Hoyt didn't
must smell
leave,
so bad.
a tarp, we all would have died because we would have had rain constantly coming down on us and putting out the fire.
Nice.
Thank God for that tarp.
Oh,
thank God for that tarp.
Thank God for that tarp, and thank God for the 55-gallon drums that were left nearby that we could sit on.
What makes it so funny is we probably lived 150 feet from each other, obviously with woods and trees and stuff.
But it felt like there was a hard border between us.
Yeah, there was a great wall of skirmish between us.
And
but
skirmish.
rain too. But I took my boots off at night and I would dry them over the fire. So different camp, different. Even though we were in the same definitely general geographic location, all I had to do was just, all right, my shoe's hot, we're good. Next one.
Yeah.
Dried the socks out. We had a laundry line going across our fire.
I
That's
dried
smart than what we
my
did.
socks and my gloves over the fire.
Yeah, right. It made it
The
so
socks
easy.
I
Made
didn't
it so
burn, of
fun.
course.
Yeah, and the only reason that we were able to get that fire started is because I had Nomex fire retardant gloves that I could move logs around with. Oh
Yeah,
man.
It was,
Oh
God.
wait, so your hand was
Nostalgia.
the fire poker.
Yes, my hand was the fire poker. Thank you, Army, for
That's so
issuing me Nomex gloves.
Damn, that's what that's used for. Human fire poker.
Exactly, yeah.
Take me back. Take me back. That was a better time, Desolation 1.
This was before all this COVID and shit and rioting and whatnot. Oh god, it was just.
I mean, I'm jealous, man.
an
I wish I
innocent
could do
time.
something like this.
Yeah.
That's why I'd be sick if oh god, this event in Victorville with all the destroyed buildings and everything. Ooh, it'd be so nice.
Yeah, if you want to be able to play literally whatever character you want, it doesn't matter what the backstory is. Whether like Matt said, whether it's you came up with a backstory 5 minutes beforehand, or you're like Eric before this first event we go to, where he was carefully crafting this nihilistic background to his character. You can play literally whatever you want, and you can make it a meme too, as long as it adds to the gameplay for other people. It is 100% fine.
Yeah.
Dude, could be like the tunnel snakes.
You
You
can
can be the
play
tunnel
as
snakes.
yourself too.
Tunnel
You're
snakes, yeah.
how would I act in a post-apocalyptic scenario? Just be yourself. If you don't have a character to be for your first event, we tell people just be yourself. Act how you would act in a real scenario, and typically that works out pretty well too.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then subsequent events, you can figure out if you want to kind of take it to the next level and actually play as a different type of persona.
Yeah. Or you could just let that character evolve naturally, I guess. Who knows what you might experience and how that might shape your mentality.
Oh yeah, and depending on the weather, you might learn some actual bushcraft skills, like I did from Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a couple people who actually know what they're doing, in terms of bushcraft, and they're always very happy to teach other people, how to, whether it come knot tying or, building a fire underwater or whatever. People, a lot of clever people out there.
Yeah. Or splitting wood with a knife so that you can get to the dry center and burn it.
Yeah, I had one of those Becker BK9s or whatever. I'm like, I'm just going to cut stuff with this because it's a really big knife, and I got it for Christmas from my mom. And then Eric's like, no, this is what you do with it. I'm like, oh, that's actually really interesting. Let me watch what Eric's doing so we can live through this experience.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Frank and I have a buddy who makes custom knives now, and I was asking him, because he's a knife guy, like a knife expert, I would say. He probably wouldn't say he's an expert. He's a knife expert. And I was like, Justin, what knife should I use for this? He's like, you should use this. I have an extra one. I'll send it to you. And I was like, not necessary. He was like, no, what's your address? I'm going to send it to you. I was like, okay, sweet. He sent me like a giant K-bar, like wood processing knife that basically like you can just shove in a log and baton down and just process wood.
It sounds exactly like what I was using at fucking the first Desolation.
Side tangent. Ignore the people in YouTube. Ignore the people on Twitch. Just us girls talking. Lezz, you're in.
Hell yeah.
We need to figure out how to make Omega knives so we can survive obviously better. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're back in. All right, everyone can rejoin the conversation.
I know how we can make Omega knives. We just take old lawnmower blades, grind them down with a hand grinder, make them look real shitty. They'll look like, reclaimed survival knives.
We need to get bumper swords from Fallout, where it's just a sword made from the bumper of a car.
I like that.
That is actually another thing we haven't even talked about is the melee system.
The melees, yeah.
The only person who knows about that is Peter Cherico. He's the guy.
Oh, we should have Pete on this. Fuck.
This just gets more and more complicated.
Yeah, we do have a long rule set. I will say that. Our rule set is like 30-something pages, and it is dense. But, I mean, we have to have a comprehensive rule set because we do allow a lot of stuff. Like, not a lot of other events allow people to, like, create fires in the gameplay area. They don't allow people to have sword fights with one another.
It's like learning to play D&D or something.
You're not allowed to take
Literally,
off your
it is like a D&D book.
Yeah, because you're everything goes, and it's like when everything goes, you have to have guidelines set up, like, to figure all these things out.
Yeah, like you can sword fight with someone, but it has to. You can only do it with certain types of weapons, and depending on the type of duel that it is, it might have to be supervised by a staff member in the fight pit. But I mean, we do have rules where essentially, if you want to bring like a foam sword, like you can charge someone with that, and kind of, at 40% strength, kind of, hit them with it. But most of the time, you're probably just going to die. You're just going to die.
You said fight.
But if you do get that kill, oh, is it glorious?
It's so satisfying.
I need to hear more about the fight pit.
Oh, that's usually what, Saturday night?
That's Peter Cherico's realm of expertise. But yeah, he typically runs the fight pit Saturday night, which is literally just like a ring of tiki torches where people can take the boffer weapons that we supply and just, LARP fight with it. And there's LARP rules, so
and there's people placing bets.
There's a lot of side action. A lot of side action.
It's like a gladiator pit.
Yeah.
So good.
It's I think it's Dragoneer rules. So like you have their boffer weapons. If you hit someone in the arm, they can't use that arm. You hit someone in the leg, they can't use that leg. Hit them center mass, they're dead. And you typically go 3 rounds. To see who wins, but people really, really like doing it. A lot of people bring their own weapons, so we have weapons that people can use, but people will bring their own. We have a lot of people that are very skilled fight pit duelists. So you can always challenge someone at one of our events, and typically Peter is the one who supervises that type of stuff. It happens typically at nighttime before some of the nighttime, gunfighting kicks off.
The interim. It's basically after Chile, but before. If there is something happening at night, because we can't say there's a schedule, but before something might happen at night. So like the 2 or 3 hour period that may or may not occur.
By the way, if you're going to event or attend these events for one thing, make it the chili. Oh, it's so good.
Chili's so fun.
Chili is good.
The chicken was also good at Revenant. I love the chicken.
Yes.
So it's all good. The food. Just go to the food at Omega Games.
The chicken was Slab and I can't remember his name.
R.I.P. Slab. F's in the chat for Slab.
My boy Slab.
That was a funny one too, because that was the first. Because people, they kind of approach it like a video game, like, oh, like if we accidentally kill someone, they'll come back to life. Nope. You killed Slab. You threw a grenade at him while he was being held hostage. He died along with his death.
Damn, permadeath system.
It was hard to fight a night game with a goddamn revolver, okay? It's not my fault.
No tracers.
I was helping out the people during the night game, And Frank's texting me now. Slab and Helios were the ones responsible for the chicken at Revenant. So that was definitely amazing. But yeah, going back to the night portion, yeah, we definitely had to use a lot of subterfuge to overcome the raiders that were holding Slab hostage. I think because they were asking for like some crazy amount of bullet casings. They were asking for something that we were like, there's just no way we're going to be able to get that.
Beef jerky.
So,
they wanted beef jerky. We had no beef jerky.
So I think I grabbed someone. I took their backpack. I'm like, all right, this has everything they want in it. And they're like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, yes, it does. And I think we like took it out to them and then like killed a couple with grenades and shot some. But I don't know. It was that was again another interesting kind of scenario where things were happening and then another group came like out of the woods out of nowhere and like helped us out. It's kind of just, those things that, they're definitely not scripted. I can tell you they're not scripted, but interesting things always end up happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you want to talk about emergent gameplay, a significant amount of the action that actually happens at these Omega events isn't scripted.
Well, I mean, I'd say none of it is scripted. There's always a million ways to do something. There's never a moment that players enter a scenario and there's not 100,000 ways that they can approach it.
Oh, absolutely. It is 100% the personification, the personification of fuck it, we'll do it live. Like that is absolutely Omega events.
I would say even like putting the player interaction aside, right? Like you can't decide what two strangers are going to do. Eric and I, when we get in a room, I promise you, the interaction is not going to be the same every time with the same scenario. He and I look at each other, we're like, we're making it up. Okay, go, do your thing. I'll do my thing. Just keep going.
And that's the phenomenal thing about Omega staff is that a lot of us know each other so well that we're just like, yeah, let's make it up as we go along, and it'll usually end pretty fucking well.
Yeah, and that goes back to the staff thing. Like you just have to have a reliable staff where you know them, and really the biggest thing is this goes for any whether you're trying to do a post-apocalyptic game or a mil sim game. You have to have people that you can trust, right? Like you can't be going on Facebook saying like, oh, I need someone to run this community, like, oh, I need NPCs for this event, because that's how you get people that are going to put their own fun ahead of everyone else's, right? And when I think again, like the thing that we're very fortunate with is we have a lot of friends who are willing to put other people's fun ahead of their own and make it a memorable experience for everyone involved. That's difficult to do, like that's, I can say that that's like the key to success, but replicating that is going to be extremely hard for anyone to do.
Yeah.
I think Frank and I are very fortunate and very blessed to have friends like you guys who are willing to come out to these events and help us out the way that you do.
I mean, you guys put together some of the best events that most of us have ever been to, so we can't complain.
Yeah,
I just like hanging out with boys. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, hanging out with the homies.
I mean, let's be honest.
That goes back to the whole like hee-haw thing where like airsoft is cool, but when you're hanging out with the boys and fucking around, you can't really compare.
Should we disclose the hee-haw or is that OPSEC?
Nah,
no, the
hee-haw is
anyone can come to a hee-haw.
The hee-haw is an event that transcends OPSEC.
I think the hee-haw is an idea.
Yeah.
It's a feeling that you get when.
so for those of you
watching, it's 10 o'clock at night, shit face, and you just got a meme. You know who you're going to send it to. You're going to send it to the Hee Haw hooligans.
Oh, absolutely. So for those of you not watching, or for those of you watching, who have no idea what a hee haw is, essentially a hee haw in the GunGamers perspective is just hanging out with the homies, fucking around, playing airsoft, and just memeing. That's literally it. Like, you're not going to an event with the idea of like, oh, we're gonna be so tactical, I'm gonna go kick in some doors and flex on the pores. I mean, obviously you'll flex on the pores because that's the most important part of airsoft.
Yeah.
But you're there to fuck around with the homies, and that's it.
Yeah.
It is called hee haw with the fuck around gang.
The only tactical part is
shout out to John. Shout out to John for coming up.
John Voland is an American treasure.
Without him, it would just be us.
To the hee haw, so you can hear him shit talk on the radio the entire time,
or hear him do his amazing Solid Snake impression.
Oh, Colonel.
I'm trying to figure out where to lay
Someone
down
said in chat
fire,
that even
Snake
Papa
just keeps
Josh
telling
can't.
me that-
I was gonna say that someone in chat said that even Papa Josh can't complain about Omega. No, Papa Josh, like, literally was talking up Omega because he didn't think of it, and it's a phenomenal idea as far as events go.
What was his quote? Was I wish I had thought of it?
Yeah, I wish I had thought of it first, but
put that on the box art.
And Alex
put that on
got
the box art, Alex.
I wish I thought this first. Josh Warren, French, he's important in airsoft.
Frank and Josh actually talk quite a bit. Like I don't know Josh. I've never spoken with him. I'd love to meet him. He seems like a very intelligent and funny guy. But Frank and Josh actually speak on a somewhat regular basis. Just kind of toss ideas around every now and then. So there's definitely mutual respect between Frank and Josh, and kind of extended beyond that, Omega and Milsim West and DFA.
Yeah, Omega
we go to both of them because we love both of them. So you know,
Omega kind of represents the same sort of spot in the apocalyptic LARP that Milsim West does in this whole, the Milsim community, where it's like this is the only real Milsim event, where Omega, in our opinion, is the only real post-apocalyptic
survival event. Yeah.
I've never seen one over here, so.
Very true.
Alex, you got to run one in Victorville.
We would love to. I mean, we've talked. Frank and I have talked. Like Victorville would be a great spot for. If we did something on the West Coast, it'd probably be Victorville because it just fits it. Checks all the boxes.
Yep.
It's just,
I don't know if I'm ready to go all the way out there, Alex.
Yeah, I don't know.
Matt, you're from California. Go home.
I know, but
I can secure all the pyro. No big deal. You guys just come.
How am I gonna fly with explosives and fake guns? There's so many things I have to do.
I got you, dog. I got you.
You don't need a gun. Just bring a boffer.
Okay, fine.
You could probably just show up at eVic and just be like, "Hey, what do you have for under $50? Okay, this will work perfectly."
Just walk into eVic and be like, "Do you know who I am? I'm Matt from GunGamers."
The best way. That's how
we got Alphonse in the chat. Hello, Alphonse.
Alphonse, we need to get you at a fucking. We need to get you at an Omega event.
I don't know if here's the problem. I don't know if Alphonse would do an Omega event because I don't think 10 BBs would feed in this fucking LMG.
Yeah, he would feeding through the scar. It would just be so difficult for him to get a mag that works.
Just have a lightsaber.
Here's the thing: he could run a lightsaber in the fight pit.
Ooh!
Oh my God!
He could be fight pit gladiator. Like he's the ultimate person you have to defeat at the end, dude. He's the main boss.
Absolutely.
Oh God, yes. That would be the
Eric, if we could run the
dress up in like the most absurd armor, like Lord Humongous style. He's got the physique for it. We need Alphonse to LARP Lord Humongous.
Eric, if we could like introduce Alphonse to like our version of Duel of the Fates in deathcore format.
Well, we'll have an opportunity to do that coming up soon.
Yeah, the hangout.
Speaking of which, the hangout in July. Yeah, I'm super excited to hang out, dude. I'm just so excited. Bring out the dual tube nods.
Well, it's gonna be a proxy hee-haw.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Wait, what's the hangout in July?
Someone texted me this.
The weekend DFE was going to be. A few of us are gonna go hang out with Alphonse at his home turf. And I know you guys will be he and haws somewhere else, but we will be he and haws in spirit. We're gonna just be shit posting memes for each other. It'll be great.
Where does text me where this is happening? I'm interested.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
If we can get a bridge where I can run Alphonse's nods and my nods, so we can have quad tube nods.
Jesus.
There's no such thing as a secret hee-haw.
A bridge for a bridge.
So it's a month away. I didn't even know about it. Wow, can't believe it.
Less than about 3 weeks. We want to get real technical.
Yeah. We're kind of getting to that point in the podcast where I feel like it'd be useful to start taking audience questions regarding Omega or any of the things we've talked about. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat.
Or what gun is best questions. Definitely post those. We don't get enough.
Or, skydiving into a Milsim event, that sort of thing.
How do I ban you from your own podcast?
Oh my gosh. I was watching that. No, I didn't watch that live. I was watching it on a recording, and I just wanted to be I wish I could watch this live just to. What a dumb question, man. What a dumb fucking.
Are you telling me that I can't skydive into an Omega event?
Well, that's the thing.
Sorry,
so,
I thought this was America.
This is one of Frank's big things, right? Frank has a lot of Frankisms, as people call them, but it's one of those things where people they want to have fun at everyone else's expense, or have fun. Their version of fun is everyone look at me, look how awesome I am. And that's exactly what skydiving into a fucking airsoft event is. Hey, look how awesome I am. I want to show how cool I am by fucking skydiving into an airsoft event, even though it would add nothing to the event for absolutely anyone else. That's all that is. It's just selfishness, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it would cost a fortune for the event promoters or whatever.
Yeah, like like the event promoters are just gonna be so honored that you have access to a fucking plane so you can skydive into one of their events. Like, yeah, like I would love to fucking insure that bullshit for one of my events.
Look at me, pores.
So
yeah,
dumb.
that is the ultimate
dumb.
flex on the pores, though. And if airsoft is all about flexing on the pores, like you're just gonna be fucking T-posing while you're flying
With your
down.
nods on, going down.
Oh
through
god!
The
I mean, if you're
sky.
running quad tube NOS, I'd be like, I have to insure this out of principle for the flexing on the
if
pores
someone
here.
if someone ever skydived into an airsoft event I was at and they were wearing quad tubes, T-posing, I would just leave.
Yeah.
I can't compete
right,
with that.
quit
I would just
airsoft.
leave. I would sell all my stuff. I'd retire from airsoft. I would leave.
I would just
Seen it all,
go.
guys.
I would
It's been
sell
done.
all of
It's
my
over.
airsoft shit and like government contracting shit just to buy all of the Nika from the cask whiskey that I could possibly afford. And just speaking of which, thank you to our sponsor Jeff Smith. This stuff is delicious.
Our
But-
liquor sponsor.
Wait, what? That happened? That really happened?
That actually
Yeah,
did
that really
happen. Yeah.
happened.
I'm drinking his Japanese
Yeah,
whiskey right
see?
now, and it's very good.
There was stuff for me, but it's mysteriously hasn't showed up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lezz. Maybe you should come out to the East Coast so you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
You can-
I haven't drank any of it. I've been saving it.
Ooh, continue to save.
All right, so we got some questions. What would you say a standard event would cost if I have nothing? Was a question from Nathaniel Howard.
To be 100% honest, where we have talked about Task Force KEG being the cheapest depression group you can do.
Well, this is
Omega-
this is for Omega.
No,
I feel like
I'm
Omega's
saying
pretty
Omega
inexpensive.
might
There's
be
no
the cheapest
really.
National event.
national event that you could possibly do. Yeah.
In terms of a cost, I mean, the event's probably cost $125 to $130 per ticket. Then you got to factor in the cost of getting to the event, which is different for everyone depending on how far you're coming from. And if you're looking at just gear for the event, we have it in literally everything you could need for an event. We have on our website on Amazon. So if you go to our website, we have an Amazon list. It's literally our entire recommended pack list items on Amazon, including
And if you're an
airsoft.
airsofter,
you can
go
buy a
into-
hater.
If you're an
hater.
I was gonna say, if you're an airsofter and you have like some of this gear, you'll probably have 50% of the shit of the packing on the packing list.
Yeah,
like
or
already.
You're a human being who has a house or an apartment. You'll probably have half the things too. Like most people have a flashlight. They have clothes for cold weather and wet weather. They have a backpack. They have boots. Typically the things that and we do have several people that come to our events are like, I've never played airsoft before. This is my first time ever playing airsoft or doing an event. Like if you're coming from that perspective,
It is actually shocking how many first timers come to those games.
It's pretty surprising. I mean, the things you're going to need, you're going to have all the safety items. The things you probably wouldn't have are iPro. So I mean, you can buy a pair of Pyramex iPro for like $13 on Amazon. You can buy a
get
hater.
the 3M Gascadai Pro for $6.50. Is what I got mine
Yeah,
for.
you can get those. So that's cheap and effective. You can get a hater on Amazon for like $75. You can get a Baofeng on Amazon for like $25.
Oh yeah.
I mean, most people have flashlights. If you need a headlamp, you can get one of those for like $15-20. So I mean, like if you have absolutely no airsoft gear, including like eye protection, guns, basic things like that, you're probably looking at like $150 to $200 in gear that you would need to attend one of our events, maybe less depending on what kind of stuff you have around your house.
I've got to hit the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in 1 second.
Ian, well, no, you're leaving us on our own with Alex. Gross.
Quick, no
What's the deal?
rules.
How do we answer
Go, go,
questions?
go, go, go.
Ah,
So,
panic.
Alex, when do you go to an event as General Blood Agent?
Next one.
All right.
It's nothing but ADs when General Blood Agent is around.
Yeah. You're just going to waste all your ammo on
You're in
yourself.
more danger when my gun's in its holster than when I'm pointing it at you. Let's put it that way.
Devil Lantern, which is other Eric, has a good question. How has feedback influenced the game? What lessons have you learned that taught you something you didn't think of?
Feedback. I mean, we always solicit feedback from people. I'm trying to think of like a piece of feedback that we received that we're like, yeah, we can do that for future events. I mean, just like more administrative things like, pushing back the start time of the events. Cause I think we used to have people being able to sign in at 12 and the event would start at 2, but it wouldn't start till like 5. So we just pushed everything back to make it easier for us. I mean, things that we learned in terms of feedback, like we've had people come to us and say like, yeah, I was expecting like more like, objectives at this event, which is like, well, that's definitely not the intention. So that's been things where like now we're just a little bit more intentional about saying like, hey, this is not a Milsim event. This is not a first-person video game. This is not something where we're going to be handing you objectives for the entire 3-day span. Like it is an open world sandbox. You have to go out and create, an experience for yourself. You will get out what you put in. If you expect, I mean, we've had people come before and like sit in the camp the entire time and then say to us like, well, no one came around and gave me an objective. It's like,
you got to go find that for yourself.
That's not the point of the event. This isn't a video game where like you start off and people are like, oh my God, I need help. Please help me. Like, no, that's not the way this works.
Yeah. You're not going to have Preston Garvey saying another settlement needs your help.
Yeah, exactly.
God.
No hand holding.
Stop that right now, Eric. Fallout 4 was an abomination.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we've definitely grown. Like, I mean, if you look at like the first event beta, I mean, like Frank and I were pretty much like the only admins running that event, and then we learned that we need to have more people. We did Desolation 1, Revenant 1, and I think at the end of those 2 events, we're like, wow, we need even more people to be involved in this. And I think when you get to Desolation 2, you see where we really hit our stride in terms of finding that ratio of player characters to non-player characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of 1 to 5, 1 to 4 ratio is pretty perfect when it comes to the total number of, NPCs at the event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think that your previous comments tie pretty well into William Roar's question. What is the most infuriating thing you've dealt with in game? And I gotta say, the most infuriating thing is probably, like, from my perspective, people who. And I don't say this like shit on anybody. I just say this so you know what to expect going in. People who expect to be spoon-fed.
Yeah, the people that expect to be spoon-fed. I mean, in terms of like people like violating rules, that has really never been a problem. Honestly, when it comes to like dealing with people in game that are problems, that's more of like Frank's department. Like anyone who knows Frank knows that he brooks no bullshit and doesn't tolerate nonsense from anyone. So he's
openly said at the first Desolation, I will pee slap anybody who isn't wearing full seal eyebrow, and that just brought joy to my heart.
He is a staunch enforcer of rules, no matter whether it's an Omega event or at the field he used to run or an AMS event, which he used to do. So he deals with a lot of that stuff. But I mean, like I said, we've only had a couple of Chaos Gremlins at a couple events, and he dealt with them very quickly. I'd say like the most annoying thing at events, I don't know. I really can't think of anything off the top of my head that's really from my perspective. So like quick background, like Frank does a lot of like the creative gameplay stuff, and I do a lot of like the administrative stuff. When I say administrative, I mean like the banking, shit. I'm the one who writes the checks. I'm the one who deals with insurance and crap like that. So like from my perspective, the most annoying thing is when people show up to events late, because that means I'm back dealing with all of like the ticketing crap and having to like read them the rule set, sign them in, and then walk them out to the gameplay area where the event has already started. That's the most annoying thing for me by far.
God. And then you have to do like, they get to the communities and everyone's got to catch them up and be like, oh God, how do we get this guy the stuff he needs? This is fucking annoying.
Yeah, exactly. And then those are the people that are like, I didn't get my ammo at the beginning of the game because the community leader gave all the ammo out to everyone. I'm like, yeah, because they fucking showed up on time. Like, what did you expect? I hit traffic. I'm like, everyone else managed to get here on time. It's just like it's people's bullshit excuses.
We're in the middle of nowhere. How did you hit traffic in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania?
Well, maybe they got stuck behind a tractor. That's a legit problem.
That can happen.
If some random Amish guy is just going real slow and is buggy and horse, just go around.
Do we have any other good questions in the chat, or should we be looking to wrap up because we're coming up on that 2-hour mark?
Alphonse said, "I'm going to skydive into a game while day noodling and wearing short shorts." And I say, Alphonse, I'm very willing to see that because of your extremely sculpted, muscular thighs. I would like to see that. Thank you.
The only way that you could make that more memey is while he's skydiving to just shout questions about Greg Wong on the way down.
Oh,
then
Jesus.
he'd peak fucking
no.
Just T-posing as you're skydiving.
Yeah, just T-pose as you're skydiving and just shouting fucking prequel memes.
Oh, Jesus.
Have like spinning arms mounted on his back, twirling lightsabers like fucking General Grievous.
Absolutely screaming hello there as he's hurtling towards the earth. Absolutely. Someone asked, does Task Force Keg do anything West Coast? So, one thing to keep in mind. Hopefully, eventually. One thing to keep in mind, I guess I'm a co-founder of Task Force Keg, rep, but one thing to keep in mind is that most of us are based out of the East Coast. So the vast majority of events that we're going to go to is going to be East Coast. Are we eventually going to open up chapters? Sure. Cool. Maybe.
I guess I'll have to start one.
Yeah, Lezz is going to start one or whatever. But to be 100% honest, at this point, the vast majority of events we're going to be going to are going to be in the East Coast within, driving distance of Western New York for Task Force Keg. Oh God, thoughts on Greg?
No.
That is such a dead meme at this point.
That is a dead meme at this point. We have agreed we're not going to talk
that.
about this. At the end of the day, Greg did what Greg did, and hey, we're going to let the populace decide.
All I'm going to say is I wish everyone the best outcome. So that's all I'm going to say. Greg,
Chris Hoyt said, "Beat that dead horse in a private chat like everyone else."
Beat that dead horse in a private chat. Make whatever memes that you want and put them in a private chat. At the
Share
end
them
of the day,
privately.
We wish the best outcome for everybody involved.
Yep. I'm glad nobody got hurt, and I'm hoping that everyone can come out of this better in some way. So
as far as keg shit goes, our most East Coast events way up north. Oh, actually, I think it might be an Omega related thing. Our most East Coast events way up north. I live in the southern part of Florida. As far as Desolation goes, that is in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. So yes, farther.
And then
north.
Oklahoma is the out west event.
Yeah.
And then Perdition was gonna be in West Virginia, and then fucking Panthera just totally.
Yeah, goddamn National Guard having to do important stuff.
Fuck the National Guard.
Fuck the National Guard.
Dang those government boys.
Yeah, but I think
Suck,
that,
Ian.
and that's that'd be
for
cool.
legal
another
reasons,
topic
all
for,
of that is a joke.
Another topic
Except
for a
for hating
podcast
it.
could be just like the state of finding places to play airsoft, because I think you'll see as we progress in time, just more and more of these training centers are just kind of they're just not going to be available anymore, right? Like Panthera is kind of getting that feel where like it's just not going to be available. Guardian Center is one. GTA may come off. I mean, like Mutsi. Oh my God, I remember seeing pictures of Mutsi and being like, this would be an amazing place for an Omega event. And then I called them and they're like, yeah, we don't do airsoft events anymore. And then I subsequently discovered that it was kind of ruined for airsoft. That's another story. But
that's one thing to keep in mind is that there are some event promoters that ruin specific areas for other event promoters. So, you can no longer do airsoft events there. Another thing to keep in mind is that as, a member of the military and a member of the National Guard, a lot of times these specific training centers will get rented out by the National Guard, various, government organizations or non-government organizations that'll say, hey, we want to use this for training of members of the military, government individuals, government contractors, and they're not able to host airsoft events because they have to stick by a strict schedule given to them by the national or by, the government as a whole. So,
yeah. And as they become more popular, they're just going to get to the point where they're like, we don't need airsoft money, right?
No.
Like we pay them $1,000.
That was basically what happened with Shelby. Is Shelby was so booked by so many airsoft events that it was legit starting to like bite into their availability for their main market, which is military training. And finally, the new colonel in charge of range control was just like, nah, we don't need airsoft.
Yeah, I mean, the guy who I would call Captain, his name's Captain Casey something. I can't remember his last name. He was super nice, and like definitely one of the nicest guys I dealt with for like booking an event. And we tried to do Shelby, it just didn't work out with the schedule because, like you said, everyone was going to Shelby, so it was becoming to the point where like, all right, you got anything in October? No. You got anything in November? No. All right, well, like December and January it's gonna be too fucking cold. You got anything in February? No. You got anything in March? No. So, and Panthera is becoming more and more popular now for actual armed services. So I think we're going to see that come off the map. Guardian Centers already has. GTI, I think they're going to be the same way, where just everyone wants to be there. The National Guard Army wants to be there because it's a great location. The airsoft is going to get pushed away.
Yeah.
I mean, I call places up and I can just sense I can feel their eye roll through the phone. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine it's much different for other types of airsoft events. So I think we're going to be.
I was going to say, someone was asking what kind of insurance they would need if they were renting a recreational facility like Camp Shelby, like GTI, like the Guardian Center. In the chat.
Extremely expensive.
The expensive kind, yeah.
Event insurance, yeah. And that's another thing that we didn't even get into, right? Like Frank handles like pretty much all like the creative aspects of gameplay and things like that. I handle more of the, insurance, financial type of crap, and just doing, and that is like a thing of its own. Like to be a legitimate event company, you have to have like legitimate insurance, and getting that is one, not easy, and two, not cheap at all. It's fucking expensive to host an airsoft event, especially when it's an overnight airsoft event where people allowed to have campfires, there's pyrotechnics. I mean, it gets very expensive very quickly. And a lot of these event companies just don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, we go to places where we list the owner of the property as the additional insured on the policy. Some require it, some don't. We do it regardless of whether they ask for it or not, because it's just the right thing to do. Like we do right by people. We don't want to screw over D-Day because something happens on Dwayne's property and we didn't take the right business steps to protect him as well as us. So it just is what it is. Like we're never going to host an event on some place that's going to be actually dangerous to players, or some place that an insurance company just will not write, and we'll say, well, we just don't need insurance for the event. And like that's, to Frank and I, that's just just ridiculous. Like we would never do that.
Nathaniel Howard has it.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, what platforms are the best way to reach out to both Omega and GunGamers? As far as Omega, Alex, where can we reach out to you on?
Our website is great because there's all the information there. You can contact us on the website, Facebook, Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, but it's really just live videos from Facebook that we do, just repost it on the YouTube channel. So I would say probably the best place to follow us for like good info is probably Facebook and Instagram. Join the Facebook group that we have, because that's where we post a lot of info, and a lot of other people post info on things that they're working on. So yeah, it's probably the best.
I'd say for GunGamers, probably the Facebook is the best way to contact us.
Or join the Facebook discussion group.
The Discord. As far as the Discord goes, if you go over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GunGamers, there's a link down in the description where you can join our...
Or just don't join the Discord,
or
because
don't.
It's fucking garbage.
It's an abomination.
Don't go there.
Don't go
horrible.
There. It is trash.
I was scarred
like
for life.
Garanthum talks shit about his comment section, but Garanthum doesn't moderate the GunGamers Discord.
That's absolutely true. Someone is asking, are we looking at any more...
from the GunGamers Discord, so...
Yeah. Someone was asking, are we looking at any more GunGamers gameplay happening? I'm actually planning something specifically where I'm going to be doing something with the upcoming event that Eric and I are going to, called Maelstrom, because there are going to be combat camera there, so... I might have something for you guys. I
am planning on doing more gameplay long term. Problem is, the last gameplay video I did is the last time I played Airsoft.
Yeah.
And it's, because that was a hee-haw at the very beginning of March. It was like March 1st.
Yeah, very beginning of March.
Jesus Christ, it's been 3 months since then. Oh my God.
I just moved here.
Almost 4 months.
Yeah, it has been almost exactly 4 months since Hee-Haw 4.
The dream quest of unknown hee-haws.
God, the H.P. Lovecraft reference.
Don't leave out the full name.
Oh, man. It was fucking great. Friday, Acacia Strain. Saturday, day drinking, Shake Shack, Owl Shop. Sunday.
Corey knocking over Chinchanga Towers.
Yeah, watching Corey ruin children's dreams.
Let's talk about that. I was worried about Corey when that happened. I was like, oh no, we're going to go downhill very fast with Corey if this is how the night's going to start out. Luckily, he didn't. Luckily, he composed himself, but I was worried.
I think after he got some carbs in him with the burger and the fries, some protein, I think he leveled out a little bit. Then we went to Owl Shop, and drinks are expensive there because they're very nice, so he couldn't get too hammered.
So F in the chat for Devil Lantern, the Buffalo Bill Burr, for skipping the hee-haw for fucking Rochester Airsoft.
Who's other Eric? Is he the one? Is his name actually Eric, or does he look like Eric?
It's Eric with a K.
Eric.
Okay. Because there's a guy.
I don't want to say
like
his
Eric.
last name on camera if he's not comfortable with it, but it's the one who was, with the fucking ninjas at Perdition.
Yeah.
Okay, I know who we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
I feel like it'd probably be worth bringing up if anyone's going to Maelstrom and Sector 7 Airsoft in Ohio. Myself and Eric and a couple other GunGamers are going to be there.
Yeah. It's gonna be
You
fucking,
can't buy
it's gonna be a
tickets,
good time.
so if you haven't got your tickets already, go fuck yourself.
Pretty
Yeah,
much, yeah.
exactly.
But if you're green, Eric's going to be your CO, I'm going to be the RTO, and we're going to have a great time. We're coming up on 2 hours, so if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to, go for it.
It's the last call for questions. We'll take one more. We'll take one more good question.
I'm 2 3-finger glasses of whiskey in, so I'm ready to go.
I'm hungry.
I want to watch sleeper videos.
I do want to watch Threeper videos as well. Oh my god.
Ooh, Threeper videos.
Oh,
rib meat
Quick
sandwiches.
recommendation while we wait to see if anyone has a question. If you've never done this before, go watch the 3% militia videos on YouTube and just realize that it's the 3% security force, I believe, is the one that's in all the videos, and it's News to Share is the channel. Go watch these videos and feel better about yourself that 99% of the time someone on the other end of a keyboard is talking shit about you for playing airsoft. It's probably one of these guys.
Yeah. If you're the kind of guy who wants to buy
real training.
If you want to buy an HK SP5 but also run like Cryptech, I don't know, any of the Cryptech patterns on a console
any
XL or
reason
something
ever.
like that.
Cancer Cryptech.
And then one of the $40 airsoft sights on this $3,000 pistol that you bought. Perfect.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, it's a great time.
Eric, I'm getting
General
upset
Blood
thinking about
Agent is a national treasure.
Oh, Eric, I'm getting upset thinking about this. Stop it right now. Anyway, last question. Nathaniel Howard.
Come on, Nathaniel. Type
It's too
faster.
late. It's too late.
3% military stuff is I don't know how to describe the feeling after watching such videos. I know how to describe the feeling. Fucking terrible. That's how you feel.
Not good.
What is the best drink
for
for hee-haw? White Claw.
White Claw.
White Claw.
It has to be
White
White
Claw.
Claw.
You're he in the haws, you're drinking the claws.
Black cherry
Yeah.
White Claw.
You have to drink
There's
the
no
claws
alcohol
and he
in
the
airsoft.
haws.
And a Yeti, because everything you do at a yeehaw has to be about the flex,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right?
I
gotta
ran
drive
my
it
dual
yourself.
tubes at the
Gotta
hee-haw.
bring a Yeti.
Flask that this wonderful, wonderful Matthew got me.
Speaking
Oh,
of which, we have to flex on the pores, telling people that you need to run Desert Tiger Stripe, and if you're not running Desert Tiger Stripe, you can just go
DTS.
right ahead and fuck yourself.
Okay, so Nathaniel Howard has a good question. It's what is the most important support role, like Grenadier, SAW, or whatever? I honestly
SAW.
think it's the SAW. I think the
SAW.
SAW is the most
SAW
important.
can fill
but
both
if you
a
can
DMR
have-
and a machine gunner role. That's
I
just it.
don't want to agree with them, but they're right.
SAW is
But the thing
100%.
is,
It has
why not have both?
exactly.
How
Why not
cool
have
do you
both?
look?
Always
eating
put grenade
tag
launchers on your saw.
across-
There is a
Okay.
reason why the SAW is the most casualty-producing weapon in the United States military. It's because it just puts down firepower that no other weapon can match, essentially.
All right. Well, I think that was a good last question. We're up over 2 hours, and we've hit our quota. So,
Yeah, do a quick plug for our
It's time,
events.
time for
yes,
food.
do-
Yeah, plug all your
plug.
stuff,
Or a
Matt.
reminder.
Or,
All
oh
right,
my God, just
so
call you Matt.
we have Desolation 3, Skirmish Paintball, August 21st to the 23rd. Skirmishes in PA. We also have Revenant 2 down in Oklahoma, D-Day Adventure Park. That's September 25th to 27th. Want to specifically thank our sponsor, Redline Airsoft, for all the things that they do for us. Again, if you need a pneumatic HPA engine, I think they're the way to go. That's pretty much what Frank and I run exclusively, as well
Got
as
two of
a
them.
lot
They're
of
great.
buddies. Yeah. So they're very good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're into post-apocalyptic survival LARP, check out one of our events. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we should definitely put the link to Omega's website in the description if we haven't already.
I can 100% do that once we end up calling.
Yeah, I put the link for the Facebook into the chat, but yeah, it should be on the video.
Oh, website. Sure. No, I'll make sure to have that in the link in the description.
Website surviveomegaevents.com. It also comes up as omega-epi.com, which is a little bit weird because before we could secure a better domain name for the website. But surviveomegaevents.com. If you type that in, you'll go to the website, or you can just type in Survive Omega in Google, and we should be the first thing that pops up. So.
Oh yeah. Like I said, Omega events. Go to them. If you don't go to them, you're not really living the true Airsoft LARP.
Oh, bye, Alex.
Anyway,
yeah. Alex just bailed on the podcast earlier. He's like, "Fuck you! I set the tone."
Sorry.
Absolutely. But yeah,
I tried to hit mute and I hit end call.
But yeah, GunGamers podcast episode 22 with myself, Kaylee, Eric, Matt, and Alex of Survive Omega. Y'all have a good one. It's been a real guy.
Peace, y'all.
Bye.